Hello, good evening, and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland and Arsenal podcast. My name is Kris. Once again, I will be your host for this evening. We did have scheduled Jason Schrader to host, but he sends his apologies. He's had a work issue, and work has caught up with him, I'm afraid. So, unfortunately, Jason won't be able to join us, but he will be back very soon, I'm sure. So let's get on with the show. We have three gentlemen with us this evening. I'll use that term light or gently, I should say. The gentleman, well, one might be. Well, first up, we'll start with the man who is apparently quite keen to sample a corn dog, but I think he's probably less keen on the effects of what doing so might happen. He's also a man that twiddles more knobs than Paul van Dijk at a weekend. It's the button monkey, the ABW producer. It's Danny the GFB. Good evening, Danny.
I want to go to bed.
Oh, there's a happy soul. Should say it's 1:35 a.m., by the way, when you're listening to this.
And me and Davies have been on here since 12.
Yeah, well, you've been yakking for an hour.
What was it, 11:30? No, 12.
12, yeah, because you moaned at me for being 5 minutes late and then talked for an hour.
Are you waving your arms when you're speaking? Because I can hear your microphone banging.
Nope. I have literally not moved my head or my hands.
Well, we need to put you in a vice or something.
Thanks. Moving on. Next up, it's the proud Welshman. He's been known to breathe a little fire, and tonight will be no exception, I'm sure. He's polishing his vocal cords to let rip as we speak. It's the flip-flop wearing dragon himself. It's Mr. Jason Davies. Evening, Jace.
Hola, boyo.
Are you well, mate?
I'm epic.
You always are.
I am. I'm even more epic this week.
How's the flip-flops?
Flip-flops are great. I've got a bottle opener at the bottom of them. I opened a bottle on Saturday night after the Wales smashed Israel. You know, happy days. We're rocking and rolling. We're going forward. Do you know when you introduced Danny now? And you said he's twiddled more knobs than Paul van Dijk? I thought you were going to go down a different route there.
I thought you might. That's why I did it.
Who's Paul van Dijk?
He's a DJ.
Is he?
He's a superstar DJ.
Yeah, like you. Like you in a weird way. We should call you Danny the DJP, but it wouldn't really have the same ring to it, would it?
Well, my initials are DJS.
Well, there you go then. You are now known as DJS.
No, I don't, because I won't answer to it.
Okay.
For fuck's sake.
Moving on. Jace, if I end up meeting you I'm going to Cardiff on Friday. If I end up meeting you, if you got those fucking flip-flops on, I'm just going to walk past you.
I'm going to wear them specially for you.
He will walk across the nearest river to get away from you.
walk over glass.
Hey, listen here. You're the one who's called Budget Jesus. You should be wearing flip-flops as a matter of course.
From Aldi.
Fair point. Fair point. Right, let's get the other one on. So finally, he's fit as a fiddle, and he's got more one-liners than a business card. He's our man at work down under, where his women glow as he plunders. It's Dom. Good evening, Dom.
You're on fire early, Kris. I like it.
Mate, doing well. Doing well. I wrote that specially for you, my friend. I hope you liked it.
I like it.
Good man.
I'm all over that.
Good man. Life treating you well?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Just finished work for now. I'm back in the game this afternoon, so if we keep nattering like we have been, I'm probably going to have to cancel, but I'm sure we'll push on and get it done, won't we?
Cancel work for life, absolutely.
Do you know what he was just doing earlier?
Who?
Dom.
Go on. Oh, yes,
Dom.
I do.
Fighting sharks.
Dom was measuring lady bodybuilders.
There's not a euphemism in that, that's true.
There's not. I'm just
fitness models. These happen to be the bikini category. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It's tough. Someone's got to do it, though.
Bet they stink.
Where did that come from, Danny?
Well, they can't all be perfect, can they?
Rose petals. They're lovely ladies.
They stink.
94, 72, 96, Jace.
I know. Oh, my God.
Right. Moving on, before Jace makes a mess of his pants, let's move on.
I just admire their beauty.
Of course you do.
And their personalities.
Of course you do. Danny.
Yes.
Danny, save me from this wretchedness.
Right.
Danny, I want to come to you because today, stroke yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this, was an anniversary of sorts. I'd like you to just give our listeners your thoughts and memories of one David Rocastle as an introduction, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, man was a legend, and not just because he sadly passed, but because he was part of the thing that made me feel at one with the club, with all the young players that come through at that time. Because much like you had Fergie's fledglings, before that you had George Graham's ones, where they all come through the academy at the same time within the space of like 3 or 4 years, with like Adams and Rocastle, Thomas and Davis, and I'm trying to think of what Hillier and Selly. And there's just so many of them, and it just made you love the club even more. That most of them were born around this. Ray Parlour, how could I forget about the legendary Romford Pele? And yeah, Rocky was fantastic. He played 277 games for Arsenal, scored 34 goals, spent most of his time out on the more of a right midfielder than right winger. I don't think we really played with wingers back then. And he made his debut on the 28th of September 1985, a 0-0 game in the First Division at home to Newcastle. And then he played 14 games for England, and I always remember him wearing that England shirt and going to take I think he was taking a corner, that one, it's in my brain. He played 2 games for the England B. England under 21, he played 14 games and got a couple of goals. He joined Arsenal as a schoolboy in June 1983 and went on to do a load of stuff, like one of his... even in the reserves, I got here 1983-84 because I got a list of all his reserve games, 49 games and 13 goals. And then after doing the same for the reserves for quite a while here, went on to every season play 30, 40, 50 games at 87, 88. All competitions, 52 games, 12 goals. And this is in a time when we didn't really score that many goals, because looking back at those days, you kind of imagine 1-0 to the Arsenal, so you'd think if we played 40 games, we'd probably score 45 goals. But those seasons, we were banging goals in all over the place. I think we played in might have been the Cup Winners' Cup, and we went over, and I think it was Austria Vienna or someone like that. We beat them 6-1 or 7-0, and just some great times and some great games. But the thing that I loved about them all most, like I was saying before, is the fact they're all local lads, and they all had Arsenal in their heart because they'd been there from maybe the age of 13, 14, 15, much like the kind of the Wilshere, the Gibbs, and all those young, the Ox, the players that are all not necessarily be local boys, but the fact that they're all young Englishmen trying to make a little bit of history at the club, but I don't think with as much success. But then for some unknown reason, we were talking about this before the pod, in July 1992, George Graham decided to sell him to Leeds United for £2 million, and everybody back then was thinking, why the hell is he going? He didn't want to go. Much like when Anders Limpar came on the pod, he said he was sold to Everton and he didn't want to go. Rocastle cried and said he didn't want to go as well, and he was only at Leeds for about it says here a year and a half. Then he was sold to Man City for £2 million again, and that didn't really work out. And then 9 months later, sold to Chelsea for £1.25 million. And that was, I think, in the days of Glenn Hoddle and Graham Rix. And I don't think Vialli had taken over by then, but it was all that kind of era, just when Chelsea was starting to stop being a yo-yo team. And he didn't really do much. He played a few games. I'm just going to go down and have a look down here. Where is it? There we go. 94-95, played 39 games and 2 goals for Chelsea. Then the next season, he played 1 in the Premier League, and I think that was the last time he played for Chelsea. And then he went on loan to Norwich in what is now the Championship, and 11 games. Then after that, he went and played for Hull in what is now League One, which is the 3rd tier. 11 games, 1 goal. And then he went off to play for Sabah, which is a team they play in the Malaysian leagues. And he was over there for a couple of years. And the whole time he was doing that, I was thinking, well, any time now he's going to come back. Because I know that he had trials with Hertha Berlin, and he had trials with Aberdeen and Southampton. And then in July 99, he retired. And I think, well, he isn't even that old. I don't know why he's gone and retired. He's only just gone 32. Or maybe he's going to go into coaching or something. And then I remember hearing at the beginning of 2001 that he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I'm not sure how much details were given out. And you thought, well, he's only 33. He'll be fine. And then the next thing I remember is driving down the M11. Got to the contraflow at Stansted, and Radio 5 said that David Rocastle had passed away. And I remember thinking at the time, that can't be right. How can he be dead? And then that was the day that we played Spurs. And that's the nicest thing ever about Spurs is on that day, even the Spurs fans stood up and applauded him. But the whole is really eerie that day on the game, and I'm sure that we won the game. How would I check whether we won the game or not? Yeah, we did. We always beat them back then. But it's just just an absolute fantastic player, a lovely player. I always remember seeing in an old Match magazine a picture of him and Frank Bruno. And they were doing a bit of training together, and just little things like that. He was just wonderful. The way that everybody loves Ian Wright at the moment, that's the way David Rocastle would be, just like that, or if not even more lovable. But then I was doing a tweet today for the podcast account, and I didn't realise that his last ever game for Arsenal was the 2nd of May 1992. It was the last game of that season, beat Southampton 5-1, and that was his 25th birthday, his last ever game for us, and I was there. There's a story to Ian Wright and the goals, and that day Ian Wright beat Gary Lineker to get the Golden Boot. I think Lineker had got 2 by half time, so Ian Wright needed to come out in the second half and get 5, and I'm sure that was the game when he did it. But it's just, I know you talk to any Arsenal fan who was there or was old enough, it's just very emotional thinking about it, because, I mean, he's only 3 years older than me, and he's not with us, and he should be with us now, and he would be on TV, and everybody would love him.
Yeah, well said. I think couldn't add anything more to that. Perfectly summed up. And unfortunately, one in a long catalogue of people taken too soon, really. Good people as well, not just a brilliant footballer, but a brilliant man. And I know that his family's charity for his memory continues, and I know they do very well. And I think Andrew's met Ryan Rocastle a few times, his son, and he said he's a very well-spoken and gentlemanly young man. So it's good to know the legacy continues, but a sad day nevertheless. So I wanted to touch on that. Danny, if we can just stay with you to update us on any Arsenal scores on the doors and international news as well, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. On last Saturday, the under-18s played. Blackburn come to Arsenal, and it ended 2-2. They scored a couple of penalties, and then we actually, what was it? 1-0 to us, then 1-1, then 2-1 to us, and then 2-2. So I mean, let's write the season off for the under-18s. It's just pointless. They're not going to really get anywhere. I think they're so far down in the league now they can't do much. But then some really good news is we arranged a friendly between the under-21s, or a combination of them all, and they played Brentford and beat them 4-0. But the brilliant bit is that Debuchy started at right back, Flamini and Arteta started in central midfield, Diaby and Wilshere started in Wilshere was in the Ozil role, and Diaby was in the right side of that role. This is just what it says on George Bird's site. So I mean, he's put out the formation as a 4-2-3-1. So I don't know if they stuck to that. But then Diaby played 46 minutes, and then Zelalem come on for Arteta at half time as well. So he only played 46. Wilshere played 46 as well. He come off at half time, and then Flamini played 66 minutes, so it looks like, did Debuchy play the entire game? I'm just trying to make sense of all of this. And Bilic played as well, so yeah, it's really, really good. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, I suppose you can count Diaby as a first team player. You've got 5 first team players, all having a game, or half a game, and all coming back for the run-in. And how good would that be to see Diaby getting a bit of a run to the last few games before he's no doubt given a free transfer in the summer?
Sadly, that seems to be the way it's going, doesn't it? Although you just never know. I wouldn't put anything past Arsenal. He might be in the starting lineup on Saturday.
Well, me and Davies have worked out a way for Diaby to go down in Arsenal folklore, but we probably shouldn't say that on a podcast if it involves killing someone in an FA Cup final.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be the best thing to promote.
Boys, there's nothing wrong with our plan. There's nothing wrong with our plan.
There's nothing right with it either.
There are 2 big games coming up, and Abu Dhabi can play a big part in both of them.
All I'm going to say is a certain Mr. Fabregas will never play football again.
Just draw a line there.
Neither with Diego Costa.
Oh, dear.
That would be nice.
Neither with John Terry.
He's going to be a busy boy.
And the list continues.
Let's kick racism out of football.
Very good.
Oh, yes.
International to watch. What have we got on that side?
I'll quickly go through all these. England 3, Lithuania. These are all games that involved Arsenal players, not at youth level. So England 3, Lithuania 0. Welbeck started, scored, and got man of the match. Walcott came on as a sub near the end. Didn't watch that game. Italy 1, England 1. Gibbs and Walcott started. That's all they did. And then for Spain 1, Ukraine 0. Santi came on as a sub. And then when Spain played Holland and they lost 2-0, or Netherlands, whichever way you want to put it, Santi started. Then for Ospina, he played the other day when I think they won 6-0. I haven't written that down because I can't remember what day it was. But I think yesterday or today he played for Colombia and they beat Kuwait 3-1. Then Brazil won Chile 0. Sanchez started. but Chile are shit at the moment, so they've done nothing. And Gabriel still hasn't made his Brazil debut. He's spent the last 2 games for Brazil on the bench, which I'm quite surprised because that Brazil-Chile game was held at the Emirates, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that's how Edu back in the day, he went from having no caps to 26 caps or something like that in 2 years because they were just playing everyone. And so, he got lots of caps. Republic of Ireland won, Poland won, Szczesny stayed on the bench. For a couple of games for France now, they lost 3-1 at home to Brazil. Brazil just absolutely ruined them. France looked shit. Well, I don't know if that was a friendly or not, but they played like it was. And Giroud came on as a sub and didn't really do much, didn't get kicked, which is the important bit, and Kos stayed on the bench. And then I think yesterday, France 2, Denmark 0, both Giroud and Koscielny both started. Oh, right, Czech Republic 1, Latvia 1, Rosicky played, and I think that was his 99th cap. Some places say 98, some say 100, so it's impossible to try and find out for certain.
One of the 3.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But then they've had a friendly today, and he wasn't even on the bench. So Georgia 0, Germany 2. After Superman Podolski, after his antics against was it against America or Australia? He scored.
Australia, yeah.
Oh, we're not going to mention that. Ozil started again, and Podolski came on as a sub. So they beat him 2-0. And then finally, for me, the most important result, Israel 0, Wales 3. Ramsey started, scored and assisted. Oh, what a dream. Watching the highlights of that game was a thing of beauty. Just hope we get to sign Bale. That'd be great. Them two playing together. Oh, Davies has passed out.
I was going to say, you'll get Davies excited if this carries on like this.
I'm going to start crying again. I was crying Saturday night after that. I thought, boys.
And gentlemen,
smash them.
ladies and gentlemen, the tears were not coming from the eyes either.
Oh, they were. They were.
So that's me nearly done for this pod now, isn't it? I can shut up.
3 million of us. Okay, it means more to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll touch on the Welsh and whatnot in a moment. Funnily enough. Right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes then. Now, obviously, this is an international week, which equals a bore fest. No one, well, I say no one, I'm sure there are people that care about international football, but I think there's 4 people tonight that probably don't. I think that would be fair to say. So we're going to do a little bit of a sort of a flavour of a few things that are local in our leagues, and then we're going to come on to a debate which Dom has put together some brilliant stats which will take it full circle back to Arsenal again. So we're going to go around the houses in 80 days. We're going to start with some information on grassroots football from yours truly. Before I go into that, or a nice segue is I can give you the update from the Pirates from this past Sunday. We played a game that had pretty much everything. We went down 4-3 to the last kick of the game against Smeaton Holmes. We had to clear the pitch from standing water and puddles and mud pre-game. We managed to get the game on. Spent all that time and effort getting the match on, and pretty much didn't turn up first half. We were terrible. We came in at half time, 3-0 down. Could have been more, but it was 3-0, and I let rip at the team. Anyone that plays for us will tell you how epically mental I went. But then second half we started a comeback, and we got a penalty just about 10 minutes into the second half, and their goalkeeper was sent off. So you've had 3 goals already. Now we've got a red card. The outfield player had to go in goal, and he saved our resulting penalty. So now you've got a missed penalty to add to that. We then got back into the game at 3-1. We got a second goal to make it 3-2 with 9 minutes remaining. We then got a last-minute equaliser, and then in true Arsenal fashion, conceded the winner from kickoff. And as the ball hit the net, the referee blew the whistle. So literally the ecstasy of getting back to 3-3 in the 90th minute was then finished off with a 4-3 defeat literally a second later. So it was gutting, absolutely gutting. But that's football, as they say.
Bastards.
We did an Arsenal-Monaco. It was so much like the Arsenal-Monaco game, it's untrue. Everyone bombing forward, the whole get the ball out of the net, race back to the centre circle. We can still win this, lads. Oh, no, we've lost it. It was just painful. But anyway, that being said, next game, Sunday, is our last league game of the season. We've then got 2 more cup games left, and then we're done for the season, other than friendlies, obviously. So this Sunday we're at home to Real Saltash reserves. So yeah, we shall see where we go with that one. Anywho, so let's segue into the first thing we're going to bring up. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the grassroots football, obviously what it means to me, based on what I've just said about everyone knows about the Pirates due to Jace's constant abuse.
I'm not abusing you today.
No, you're not. Actually, you've been very quiet. I appreciate that.
You're having a week off.
Yeah, thanks very much. It won't last long, but
no, it
thank
won't
you.
last long. It's only because the guy's buying the kettle.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, there's a story in that, but I'll save that for another day. So yeah, well, obviously people will be aware. I appreciate we've got a lot of international listeners, but some people will be aware that the English FA and Greg Dyke came out with some radical ideas about how he wants to change the setups of English clubs, about how they bring through youth players, and he wants to inject more money into grassroots football. I'm kind of here to say to you tonight that a lot of it, in my opinion, is bollocks, and it is complete bollocks. The thing that to sort of give people an idea is that depending on what country you live in, you'll get a different kind of setup from youth level football. But the simple fact is that at the level that I manage at, or our team play at, there is no money in the game. Even if you live in a large city of a London, a Manchester, a Liverpool, that there is no money really filtering down the systems. I was chatting to a friend of the pod, Paul Swain, the other day, and he was saying that to run his under-9s team, he's having to put his own money in. That for me is just criminal. To give people an idea of what the running costs, we've been through this probably 100 times, but our running costs before we've even kicked a ball or bought any equipment every season is just over 1,200 quid. And that doesn't cost, that doesn't really cover anything other than paperwork. In fact, to give you a list of things that it does cover, you've got FA fees, which is to our local FA. We've got pitch fees. We've got a deposit for a key. We've got Devon FA Cup and league fees. We've got player accident insurance, public liability insurance, and we've got player registrations, which is going up next season. So the money is pricing people, or the setups for clubs to get going really is killing the game. It affects people from the very lowest levels to the very top levels. If you look at, people will say, well, what's this got to do with Arsenal? What's this got to do with Premier League football? If you look at the players that are coming through, there's less and less top quality talent coming through from the lower leagues upwards. If you look at someone like Ian Wright, when was the last time we had a player who started football at that late in his career that made it as a pro?
Charlie Austin.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. But that's two people in how many years?
Yeah, exactly.
There's not enough coming through. There's not enough top quality coaches at this level. There aren't people obviously have full-time jobs, they have families, they have commitments of their own, and when they're having to give up that time just to run their local clubs, or in like Paul's case where they're running youth sides, there's no encouragement. If I want to go on, I've done a level 1 course. If I want to go on to do a level 2 course at FA youth level, I have to pay anywhere between 160 and 210 pounds, which is, that's just to do a very low-level standard coaching course. Even to coach kids nowadays, you have to have obviously CRB checks, which cost money, and you have to have the relevant qualifications to be able to coach kids at any level. It's a very, very large issue, which we don't want to spend too much time, but we wanted to make the point of highlighting the struggles that clubs have. I've got something that I want to mention at the end of the pod today, which is how we kept our club alive last year, which we're looking to do the same again this year. But it'll be really interesting to find out from people listening to this all around the world how things affect your leagues, what sort of things are in place. Obviously, there's different systems. The American system sounds like a great idea, which I think is something we should look into in this country, whereby players are brought through at sort of college or collegiate level and pushed through. But the idea that Greg Dyke has of just ridding sort of clubs of the opportunity to play young foreign players, to me, is rubbish, and it isn't going to work. And the idea of putting 3G pitches or 4G pitches, as they're now talking about, I listened to the Radio 5 debate. I'm living in a city like Plymouth, which, for people that don't know, is at the very bottom end of the UK, right on the edge. there isn't likely to be money coming down as far as us. They'll start at the very top way, they'll start at the very top of the game, and there's very, very small amounts that drip down through the leagues, and it's not right, and it will affect clubs even at the size of Arsenal eventually, because there just simply isn't the talent coming through, because of a lack of good coaching and a lack of good facilities. And if you're paying that sort of amount of money every single season to not be able to get games on even, or not even be able to play, we've played on pitches this season that have not been lined, the grass has not been cut. We've had games, we have a rule in our system where if we turn up and a referee doesn't turn up, we're required by the Devon FA to still play the game without a referee. Until these things are changed, and until money is put into the game properly, I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of this system. And with that being said, I want to move across to Jason. Jace, I know that you want to speak on certain things to do with the FA and how it affects the other nations involved as well.
It's not just that; it's just the way the FA are run. If you look at the announcements a couple of years ago for the next 2 World Cups for Russia and Qatar, the FA were mourning that it wasn't a fair playing field, that they weren't treated fairly by FIFA and so forth. Yet, in the last 12 months, there's a big issue in the UK with identity, as in the Scottish FA, the Welsh FA, and the Northern Irish FA wanting to be treated separately to the English FA, because they'll just try to make us a UK squad. And, we're different countries and we want to keep our identity. The English FA tried entering another UK Team GB into the Olympics without discussing it with the other home nations. The chairman, president of the FAW, the Football Association of Wales, his exact words were livid, absolutely gutted with the Welsh FA and the way they've gone about this, because they did not talk to anyone about it, only until after the fact that it came out in the press. This week, David Gill of ex-Manchester United has been elected to a FIFA vice presidency. There was an agreement in place where 1 year it would be the Scottish FA representative, the Northern Irish, then the English and the Welsh, etc. The English FA went against went back on an agreement with the home nations and put Gill forward without anybody else's knowledge. They tried justifying it afterwards by saying, certain rules have changed so we can do it. But there was no cooperation. The FA, they moan about everything, but they're still a blazer squad. The commission, which has released the report this week, they want to dilute the amount of talent at clubs by making more homegrown players available in these youth systems. When they first started this, it was all white. There were no black ex-players. There were no women on the commission. There was nothing. It was just Danny Mills and a couple of other people. David Gill apparently didn't have the time to take part in this commission. They ignore everybody else. It's jobs for the boys. It's the Blazer Brigade running football in England into the ground, and that has an effect on Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales as well, obviously, because they're such a powerful country. There's 50 million people in England. There's only 3 million people in Wales. That's the way it is. That's what we have to live with. They're the big brother. I don't want to hate anybody. I don't want to, slag anybody down. But these people mourn about being treated unfairly, yet they can't get their own house in order properly. The Premier League didn't take part in the discussion about this commission, about how to bring more English talent through British talent, whatever you want to call it. It's predominantly an English issue, but they just stick their head in the sand and think that they can get it right all the time. The sad fact is, I think, I saw these stats recently. I can't remember the exact numbers, but of Class 1 coaches, of the what's the term for the top coaches, Kris?
Good question. In what respect?
The ones like Paul Lamberts, etc., to have all your coaching badges.
The UEFA badges. Yeah, I know what you mean.
UEFA license, but
Yeah, pro license.
Okay, the pro license. Sorry, thank you. Of pro license coaches in England, there are 273 people odd around that mark who hold that pro license. In Germany, there are 2,900 plus. That's where the issue in developing talent is. Yet it's such an obvious thing, better coaching inspires better performance. Better performance brings up standards, and they can't even get the house in order. But you're talking about people who moan and bitch about the FIFA, UEFA, and the rest of the world, yet do the same things to their partners at home. The FA just can't be trusted with the game in this country anymore. The English FA, whatever they want to do is up to them, but it affects the team I follow in the Arsenal. And it's not right. And when you've got Arsene Wenger and other clubs who are going to put a legal challenge to this because they've invested time and money in talent from all over the world, the more talent in their coaching system, in their youth systems, and though the Arsenal have got it wrong in recent years, and we know we've got it wrong, but the more talent in there, the better the talent, the better performance, the more we drive up standards. And they're missing the whole point of it. And, the FA do not accept responsibility for their own mistakes. They do not liaise with anybody else. It's the same old shambles from the same old Muppets in the same old blazers. And that's the sad fact.
Yeah, well said, and perfectly put. Dom, I want to just get your perspective, not so much about the English FA, because quite frankly, why would you care? And quite rightly so. But how does this sort of thing get publicised, if at all, in Australia or from the press that you read there? Is it something does the Australian game have a system of bringing players through? Do they have sort of a way of getting young coaches and getting kids into playing? Is it still treated as like a recreational thing to get kids out of the house and enjoying the sport, or is it taken more seriously? And how do you get reports over there about a nation like England where we're constantly sort of banging on about it here and we're always in the spotlight? How are we portrayed overseas?
It is actually quite interesting because, to be brutally honest, the media over there have a lot to answer for when it comes to overhyping the actual expectations that I guess you guys have as a nation when it comes to things like World Cups and the players and things that you're producing, whereas we're under no illusions that 2-2 against the World Cup winners in Germany is a massive effort and result for us, and we probably wouldn't have even flinched if we got spanked 4 or 5-0, because the media here is quite different. I think an example is that if there's a barnstormer of a game in the Premier League, Man United versus Man City, it's a 3-2 thriller, last kick of the game wins the game. That's not what's on the back page. It'll be the one controversial moment of the game that's blown up into this big story. And that's, I think, the English media in a nutshell. Because to be brutally honest, the English football team is not that fucking good. It's just not. And I think that's what the hardest part for people to get their heads around is that you go to a World Cup, and I said it during the World Cup pods, I could name about 6 or 7 nations that would absolutely just mow through England. And it's not anything to do with disliking England. It's not anything to do with any bias whatsoever. It's purely to do with the fact that as an outsider and somebody that lives in another country, you can look at things a lot more objectively and go, you know what? Australia are more than likely going to finish bottom of the group that we were in because we were against better sides. If you look at the English group, you go, well, you know what? You're probably not going to make it through because there are other teams that are better. And it's the media that are making you all think that you're a lot better than what you are and that you should be finishing higher than what you are purely because, the Premier League's a good league. But again, if you go down and the rule changes as far as the homegrown players and things, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever, because if you look at the nations that are producing world-class footballers at a pretty high rate, they're countries where kids grow up in the streets playing football. They have nothing else. They don't, look at Alexis Sanchez as an example. In those South American countries, they'll kick a tin can around if they have to. Football is absolutely everything. In England, you have cricket, you have rugby, you have, athletics and swimming and all of these other sports that people can play. They don't have those opportunities and things in those countries, so it is nothing but football. They carry a football around with them all the time. you're competing against kids that are learning left and right foot skills and all sorts of stuff from 3, 4, 5 years old. And so, as you said, the problem isn't the international players coming through. It's that the quality of the youngsters in England are no way near up to scratch by the time they learn those basic motor skills as, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids, where you learn a lot of that basic stuff. The English kids just aren't getting the same. So, of course, the talent pool is going to be watered down. As far as how it goes in Australia, it's probably a bit of a similar thing to the Americans, I guess, where there is school football, and if you do well enough at school football, you play club football, and if you play well enough at club football, you'll get selected for for just higher and higher teams, I guess, or rather than playing at school, you'll start playing at sort of state level and things like that. So I guess the natural progression of the footballers here is probably a little bit better, perhaps, than what it is in England by the sounds of things, where it is still quite expensive to play football here in comparison to a lot of other sports. But if you show promise, you soon get snapped up. But it's just, we're just not a nation that plays a lot of football anyway. In certain areas there is. But yeah, like I said, I think that the issue is just at the lower levels over there. And if the kids aren't learning those skills that other nations are, then you're starting way behind the 8 ball. And of course it's going to filter up.
Yeah, I agree. And Jace, I want to just come back to yourself. Something else I wanted to bring up, as well as what you were going to mention there, is that when Dom talks about the coaching, the expectation upon the media, I know one of Greg Dyke's mindless comments was there are probably thousands of Harry Kanes out there who've not yet been found. I think that's just complete rubbish. When I think that there are players like him, 10 to a dozen at various clubs up and down the country, but because they're 1 inch too short, or because they run at a slightly different style, or because they try and do things that are a bit unique and out of the box, they're overlooked. And that comes down to the fact that the coaches are not picking up on the young talented players and honing that skill. And I think, and I've seen it, examples at my level, where because the coaches are not of a high enough standard, they're missing things that I think European and world countries would do. And often kids are being coached out. I know with my team, I try and play different formations. I don't just look at your 4-4-2. I don't encourage my team to just lump it. And yeah, we can all have a giggle about my results, but in the long run, they're becoming better, or we're playing better football because we're not dropping down to that level. I know you want to say something.
But Kay Leighton posted on the Facebook page about this and said some kids grow up loving a sport but may not actually be that good at playing it. Should coach and referee badges be introduced into sports lessons to keep them all engaged in different capacities, improve traits such as management and leadership? And I think that's a really good point, because football sport is not just for the best players, it's for everyone to play. And with that, because it's for everyone to play, okay, it should be inclusive. Now, whether the Pirates win or lose doesn't really matter. The fact is you take part in it and you're having fun. Okay. If you go to the higher ends of football now, you look at Sam Allardyce. I'm not sure how he does it nowadays, but when he's at Bolton, he used to use a lot of the Opta stats to pick his teams, to buy players and so forth. They have to be a certain size, be a certain stature, of certain. They don't need to be the most skillful, but if they can run them off the park, that's what they do. You've also got the likes of Scott Sinclair, Jack Rodwell, Adam Johnson. They go to Man City or the likes for the money. They know they're not going to be picked in the first team. They know they're not. So they're cutting their nose off to spite their face. Then how are they going to develop their careers from the bench or from the under-21 side, or the reserves? They can't develop their careers from that. There are far more deeper lying issues within English football. There's so much money involved in it nowadays. Some of these kids haven't played for the first team. They're on 20 grand a week. Where's the motivation for them? You need it to be an inclusive thing. And unfortunately, the FA and the Premier League need to start working together to get it right, okay? And it starts from the bottom up. It starts from, right, it doesn't matter how good a footballer you are, we're going to teach you basic skills, and we're going to, try to make it an all-inclusive thing which people will enjoy. And as you go up, they need to bring in a system of reward there, of real reward. I look at the English football team sometimes, and quite frankly, they don't look like they give a shit. I must be wrong when I say that, because playing for your country should mean the world. But it just, oh yeah, well, Wayne Rooney, he's got to be captain because he's got more caps. He's such a good player. You watch Wales play, we haven't got the best football team in the world. We never have had. But people give a damn. They give a damn, That 90 minutes representing your country with the dragon on your chest, it's the most important thing in the world to those guys. You look at Gareth Bale. Who cares about Real Madrid? When he plays for Wales, it's all about Wales. You look at Aaron Ramsey, you look at the effort they put in the weekend. They give a shit. There's got to be that reward for them. But there's such a lack of talent coming through. There's no real competition for places in England anymore. And they've got it wrong. And they need to address that. But these guys, they're in so much money that there needs to be an extra start. Why should players like Wayne Rooney, who earn 300 grand a week, get paid for playing for England? It's an honour.
I agree.
But that side of it has gone out. Representing the Barbican Pirates should be an honour on the weekend. Do you know what I mean? But they've taken the soul out of football. And I'm not saying let's go back to the 80s. You can't. You can never go back. Okay, but it should mean something. And, when you got Greg Dyke poncing about, I'm going to form a commission. I'm going to form a commission now. Why is everybody white and of the same sort of person? They're almost clones. There's no diversity in there. Why isn't there a Paul Swain on that board, on that commission, who deals with an under-9s team? Why isn't there somebody who deals with the pub team? Because they don't want to see it. They don't want to see the truth. English football is never going to get better until they see the truth of where they are. In Wales, we don't have a problem with that because there's only 3 million of us. There's only a certain amount of players you can pick from. It doesn't matter if Gareth Bale's in that team. Somebody's got to step up and have a go. And if we lose, well, do you know what? I couldn't give a shit. I couldn't give a shit if we lose or not. Of course, it hurts me, but as long as those guys in the park have given 110% for 90 minutes plus, I'm happy. I'll always be proud of my country. I'll always be proud of those guys who are out there. Glorious failure once again. Okay, I don't like it, but you know what? At least we all pull in the same direction.
Yeah, perfectly said. And a segue into, I will sort of draw a line under the topic there, but there's a few questions I'm going to quickly run through. It's a bit of a back to front pod because we're going to do the questions and then go on to another Arsenal related subject. So, but yeah, to draw a line under that, really, you're absolutely right, Jace. It is a clone. And again, you're right when you say there should be people at my level, Swaney's level, other levels at this particular point in time that should be at the very least consulted. And you certainly don't see many pictures of Greg Dyke wandering down to a muddy Sunday League pitch to watch games to see what it's all about and what we're dealing with. So I agree with you there. And the bottom line is players ain't good enough. They won't play. And unfortunately, the way it is that English players are not as good as their European counterparts, technically, physically, mentally, in my opinion. And that's why they're not breaking through. No other reason. Let's just chuck through a couple of these questions then, and then we'll move on to another topic. Danny, I'd like to ask you your views on this one. Just a couple of minutes, really, at most on each of these, so we can zip through. DK Jukester 94_94. He asked me earlier on, and I'll ask you, Danny, what is more dangerous in your opinion, Greg Dyke's plans, or the fact that the pundits and commentators seem to be mindlessly agreeing with them?
Well, they're all in the same boat, aren't they? If people who don't know, Greg Dyke is famous in this country for running the BBC. I don't know that he had anything to do with football before that. And there was a bloke before him called Crozier who ran the FA. He left the FA and ran on to run the post office. There's just too many people that are getting jobs for no reasons. Imagine if you put someone like Ian Wright or any other kind of football legend for whatever club you want, someone who's a real football person. Imagine what the first things they would change about football. It's just the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. And it's just going to carry on getting on because they might get someone in who's going to say, "Oh, I have plans to do this or plans to do that." But once they start getting paid the money, then they're going to be part of the old boys club anyway. And then once they're in it, they're not going to change it because it's like being a politician. Oh, I want to change the world, and once you're in it, oh well, I might as well leave it as it is because I'm on the gravy train, and that's what they all are. So I think whichever one of those two you pick. It's nothing is ever going to change, and we haven't mentioned also in the UK with all this massive £5 billion Sky have paid, and it's already been put out that they're putting up our monthly charges by £4.50 a month if you have all the channels. That's a £5 a month. That's £60 a year. Best part of that's just absolutely fucking unbelievable,
and it's all going away in Rooney.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, it is. It's fact, isn't it?
Well, another thing I like about the American system is, there's plenty wrong with it. Like if you have to have, like they're on about the soccer mums, if you ain't got money at the lower levels, you're not playing.
No.
That's why you see so few ethnic minorities over there. I mean, you think world football, the Spanish and the Hispanic people of South America and like the Mexicans and all those ones, so much influence in football. So why don't they come through and play for the American national team? Because they don't have any money.
No.
And it just costs so much to do. But I do like the way they have a salary cap. You have two players. Like I think it's still called the Beckham rule, or they have a new name for it. But then it was one. And like in Australia, they have the marquee player when you have like 2 or 3 players that you're allowed to have. But then all the clubs have to have X amount of money that you can spend on players and wages and things. And they do. They do that to a certain level in the lower leagues over here. You can only spend X amount of your profits, but it's not working. The gap between the Premier League teams and the teams that are no longer in the Premier League is so big now. It's killing football. Look at Blackpool in the Premier League a couple of years ago. Now they're rock bottom of League One and they're about to go down to of Division 2, which is the Championship. They're off down to Division 3.
Portsmouth as well.
Yeah, but that was interview with Talk United the other day. The reserve goalkeeper has left the game to go and sell cars.
Because he lost passion for it, didn't he?
Yeah, and it would take their team, I think it's 7 years. Was this 7 years? 7 years to earn what Wayne Rooney earns in a week.
Yep. Yeah, and he's
That's
lost passion.
the squad. It would take them 7 years to earn what Wayne Rooney earns in a week. You know, when you have issues in the game, you have to look at it. You have to compartmentalise. You have to go to grassroots. Right, what are the issues the Barbican Pirates, Armandford Town, whatever, are facing? Then you have to see how you can drop the money down to be able to help them overcome those issues and develop players step by step. You do not change it overnight. Look at what Germany did. Germany looked at the whole system and decided, right, we have to start grassroots up. And the coaching system they've put into place across Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2, etc., is top quality.
Yep. Yeah, 100% agree. Go on.
They're not looking at how the clubs can get better. They're just looking at, I tell you what, we just put more English players in those clubs and it'll work. It doesn't work.
No.
It starts right at the bottom and it filters up.
And if they're not good enough, as I said before, they shouldn't be playing. So I 100% agree with you on that.
You watch what will happen. Dom knows more about this with old gladiator bloke. What's his name?
Russell Crowe?
Yeah, what he did with the Rabbitohs. Spotted them as a kid. Perennial failures in the rugby. And then he bought them, changed the entire ethos of how the club is run. And I think within 9 years, they now have won every single trophy in world rugby that they are eligible to be in. And you watch what happens if he gets hold of Leeds United, who are in English football history. You would say they're one of the 10 biggest teams in the history of English football. And if he takes over them, you'll see how it's run. And if I ever get a chance to own Arsenal, you will see how things are done. First thing I do is get rid of all the executive boxes. There will be none. Yeah, but then you take on the FA about the ruling with no standing, because that was found to be the police's fault, not the fans' fault. And so the whole thing about the no standing, that's all bullshit. And like Newcastle a few years ago, when they win the Premier League, no standing, go down to the Championship, you're allowed to have standing. But he can't have it because it could cause issues.
If you look at what he's done to the Rabbitohs, it's across the board. It's the fans as well.
That's what we need in football.
There's if there was they had issues with racist comments from the fans and what have you. There's no ifs or buts. They're banned for life.
Yeah.
Who did?
Banned for life. Russell Crowe does it, the Rabbitohs.
Do they?
Yeah. Sexist comments, racist comments, you're banned
Oh.
for life.
Yeah.
Good.
No, zero tolerance policy.
Yeah, zero tolerance policy across the board. And in all honesty, it's the 21st century. You can't go back to the 80s. You've got to go forward.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever you're going to bring back in, as long as you say, right, you know, we're going to discharge what we do in a fair and just way. You know, it's there, it's out there to you all. You know, whether it be with players, whether it be with fans, it's out there. That's what's expected of you. In return, we'll give you this. Then it's fair enough. But you just don't see the clubs or the FAs doing that.
Because they're all too comfy, and only once they get down the bottom. Look at Portsmouth, now owned by the Portsmouth fans. You know, sometimes I've said it before. I'd really like it if the whole of Arsenal collapsed like Portsmouth, and if we ended up having to go down to the fourth tier. I say fourth division because I'm talking old money. For Arsenal to go down to the fourth tier of football, be bankrupt, and then us fans buy it back, and then we run it like that. Danny, they do with Portsmouth. Danny, I'm sorry. It's never going to happen.
I'm sorry, Danny. You don't want to see that happen. You know,
it gets rid of all the people at the club who are just in it for the money.
When I was living back home in Armandford, you know, well, actually, when I was in Cardiff, then you saw it happen in Swansea City. They were sold for £1. They were a laughing stock. It was heartbreaking to see what's happened to that club. The number of times, you know, myself, my family, my friends, what have you, have given money to the club just to survive. It's heartbreaking. And now through good management, there's the fans own part of the shares, etc. You know, they've built their way back up, but that's one club. That's one club. Plenty more have gone under. Plenty more are now in the conference.
Yeah,
you know, not everybody won that game to stay in the Football League, and that's the problem. Okay, you know, you can say it may change things, but it doesn't always change it for the better.
I want to give a nod to that London guy who's Carl, who did say, do you think the FA should have fans on the board? Because we kind of covered that in that statement, and yes is a simple answer. Next question, and we'll speed these up, guys. So give me some straight answers on these one if you can. Dom, I'm going to pick on you on this one actually. We had a question which I've now just lost brilliantly. Well done, me. Question from Canadian Kelly, and she was saying, and this applies to all countries really, but particularly England. Do you think that having a homegrown player rule helps or hinders development of English or general football?
I think it's a good idea in principle. You know, you don't want... Because, you know, look, at the end of the day, like we've just spoken about, if the most talented players were the ones that were coming through, there probably wouldn't be too many English players playing in the Premier League, because the equivalent 12-year-old from Brazil playing in the backyard somewhere is probably a lot more talented than the equivalent in England, purely because, like I said before, the kid might not go to school, and if he does, he's kicking a ball around half the time he's at school, and like it's just... I think you need to have something in play where you don't end up having, you know, the Premier League basically with 2 English players per team. But like you said earlier, having more English players doesn't necessarily make it better. You need to have better English players. And I think that's what the whole argument is that you need to be producing better quality. And that starts from when you very first learn the basic skills as a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Very well put. Nod to John Welsh, who also mentioned something we've also covered, which was other countries that have anywhere between 5 to 10 times the amount of pro-life coaches that we do. Which,
sorry,
Jason,
can I come in just in on that?
Yep.
It starts in schools, and it starts with skills. It starts with skills and learning about the game. Okay? You know, you're not going to get those talented English players until you cut all the crap out of it all being about winning at a young age. It's about learning the skills. It's about learning your trade. It's about learning about the game. And until kids are taught that in a proper manner, you know, they're never going to get it, are they? You know, because it's so high. You know, you pass a kid's game and everybody's screaming at them. I've done it with my nephew. You know, I remember screaming to stick their head on some kid at 9 years of age. You know, well, it was just one of those things. But they've got to learn the basics. They've got to learn the skills from an early age. Play and enjoy. New Zealand do that with rugby. You know, it's about skills. Australia do it with rugby. You know, and those are the two most successful nations because of that.
The enjoyment has to be the forefront of it.
Yeah.
Danny, another one for you, quickly. Again from Carl. He says, why do you think that there are so few black coaches and managers in the game?
They haven't got a history of it. Well, I suppose some could say they haven't got a history of it in the game, have they? I mean, you go back to, one of the first ever black players played for West Ham years and years, longer ago, in black and white days. But it's to people like us, then having black players means nothing. It's nothing special because as Arsenal fans, when I first started going, half the team was young black players from London area, and I still feel that we're all the same. The colour has nothing to do with it. But you go back a generation before that, which is 20 years, then because I think it was the Windrush generation of people that come over in the 50s. So you got people that didn't grow up around them. Then I say them, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
Around black people or any shade of people or anybody who isn't pink like us, then they're not going to like it. They may don't trust them or they just generally don't like people who aren't the same shade as them, and it's not going to change until younger people get, like, if any of us owned a club, you wouldn't think twice about it. I've said many times on Twitter, if I ever one day when I own Arsenal, the first thing I'm going to do is get all the old players in. I don't care where they're from or what they look like. If they want to come and coach, that'd be brilliant. It's I know they were talking about this because of the John Barnes thing. Well, John Barnes might as well just complain. He say, "Oh, it's not fair. I haven't been picked as an astronaut because I'm black." Well, you're a shit astronaut. You'd be a shit manager. You've had your chance at being a manager. You're no good. Why don't you just go, well, I'm going to stick to coaching?
Yep.
Because he would just imagine an afternoon with John Barnes, how much he could teach you as a coach.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
because you're not a manager doesn't mean you're not a great coach. I mean, you're a shit manager. You don't have to be. You won't be a shit coach. You look at Tony Adams, exactly the same as John Barnes, a legend international footballer, shit manager, fantastic coach. He would be.
The problem with the race issue as well is it's a society issue, isn't it? You know,
for some people, it is. Yeah.
But it is a society issue. You know, let's be honest. As advanced as this country is, you know, we're not there yet.
Well, we didn't chuck bananas at our black players, did we? Liverpool had the players when they had John Barnes playing for them.
Everton did it. You know, the Paul Carnival story with Chelsea, etc., is horrendous. But you know, we're 30 years down the line. We're still moving forward in that direction. We're not there yet.
I think that's a club by club basis and a geographical
education
area.
as well, isn't it?
But you can
Plus, we're in London.
Yeah,
so is Chelsea, I suppose.
About how many chief executives of FTSE 100 companies are black. Do you know what I mean? That's a society issue. It's not just a football issue. It's for us all to address.
Yeah, and too many are too ignorant, and too many are basically uneducated, I think is the bottom line.
But you know, we always have to make sure that we're moving forward in that direction.
I mean, if they come out and said that John Barnes was going to be a coach at Arsenal, I'd be delighted. If they said he's going to be manager, I'd be horrified.
Exactly. Right, 3 more quick ones and we're done on this subject. Kamo _78 Gunner, which is at Kamo _78 Gunner, funnily enough. He says, and I'll ask, I'm saving one for Dom, so Jace, I'll ask you for a quick answer on this one.
Yeah.
He says, isn't the biggest obstacle players have is the impatience of clubs to give them time to develop on the highest level? So in other words, are they actually being sort of forced through too early when they're actually still in development stage? Should they not be staying in that development stage? And on the same lines, actually, I'll put 2 questions into one. Tom Canton also said very similar. Should players that are at under 21 level not be called up to the first team and get experience under 21 level until they turn 22?
If you're good enough, you're old enough. But the problem is, it's the club versus country row. Okay? And as much as clubs are culpable in that argument of not giving players time, so are fans. So are fans. You know, we've seen our own booed by our own fans. Right? You know, let's not blame just the clubs here. We all want instant success. We all want the next £30 million player. Right? Before we start chucking it around at everybody else, let's take a look at ourselves and what we're prepared to do. on how we treat these players. Because again, as much as you can blame players for being impatient or being greedy, you can blame clubs for not giving them enough time. You know, when you hear your own fans booing your own player, or, oh no, it's not him coming on again, so-and-so's shit. Well, hold up here. You're on your phone talking about football, or you're sitting in a stand, and you pay your money, you get your right to say whatever you want, okay? But are you as good as that guy on the pitch? The bollocks you are. So that's how you look at that.
Yeah, well said. Final question then. Dom, one of your fellow Aussies, accidental gooner, and she wanted to ask, you may or may not have heard about this, so if you haven't, my apologies, but she says, what do you make of Joey Barton's comments, re, that England players are playing against lower opposition, i.e. like Lithuania, etc., are just asking for injuries to their players? What do you make of that?
That's probably a good point. You think I don't know. Like, I just don't understand the point in the friendlies anyway. I know it's just FIFA trying to make money because they think, well, the World Cup's finished, and I guess we need some bums on seats, and whether people like international football or not, like we don't, but there's still going to be TV money involved and ticket sales to be had, and I don't know. I guess you could probably argue that, is it worth going up with against friendlies and those types of things against other bigger sides, because you could just be as likely to have an injury if you're playing against a crapper team. I guess you can coast through a little bit easier, perhaps. I'm not sure, but I'm not. I just don't understand where Joey Barton's probably basing his opinion on. I guess I think it might just be a sort of off the cuff. Is there any statistics or anything to suggest that there are more injuries against lower ranked sides than against higher ranked sides?
Kris,
I think it's... Go on, Jace.
Sorry, what was the question again?
It's basically revolves around... Hang on a minute, let me get it back.
The exact question.
So what do you make of Joey Barton's comments, re, England playing against lower opposition, they're just asking for injuries to players?
Yeah, but this weekend... tonight's game was a friendly. It was against Italy, a team better than England at present, or on the same level. And the competitive game was against
Lithuania,
sorry.
Yeah.
And they have a right to compete. So I think Joey Barton can shove it up his arse.
Yeah. I just don't understand where the comparison comes from, I guess, as far as saying that they're asking for injuries. It's you go, well, it's not their fault that they're picked to play against that team, and the players have no say over who they play against. You can get injured against anybody, but I just don't know. Is there anything that suggests that the players are getting injured against these sides, or what, or is it just an off the cuff comment?
I think the only argument you could possibly have, and we haven't got anywhere near enough time to go into this now, but the only argument you could probably have is that players of quote unquote lesser nations arguably don't have the skill level players, and they don't have the coaching level required,
Kris,
so therefore players are making worse tackles.
England don't have the coaches Germany does. So should England be allowed to play internationals?
No, I agree.
That's the point I was going to make. Are Germany going to refuse to play England from now on?
And let's get this straight, okay? Joey Barton can talk to his ass all day long, okay? I don't give a monkeys about him, but Gibraltar have a right to play football the same as England do. And if these people are not allowed to compete, okay, how are they going to get better?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
and this moronic stuff about saying, oh, well, they should have to pre-qualify. That, for me, is even more moronic, because what are you going to learn? It's the equivalent of us playing, a team that we were losing in our local leagues. We were losing by 18s, 19s last season. This season, we're losing sort of 4-3, 5-2, 6-3. So you improve naturally because you play better teams.
Yeah, but the bottom line is England didn't qualify for USA 94.
Exactly. Yeah.
So should they have to pre-qualify for a qualifying group? You're talking about a country that invented the game, and you're not even good enough to have as many coaches.
Yep.
Half as many. You haven't got a tenth of the coaches that the Germans have got. No. Morons like Joey Barton should stick to playing football. Okay, and having to think about what they say before they actually say it. Everybody's got a right to play. Okay, they pay their money, they rock up, leave them compete.
Yeah, I agree.
I think just quickly on that, you've got all of those are good points, and Jace, just what you said to finish off there is the one thing that I'd go back to is that, that where's the evidence to suggest that your opinion's actually valid? And this is a bit of a segue going into the 30-goal a season striker, but you can't make statements like that without being able to say, by the way, England's injury record against teams outside the top 40 odd are this, and here's what the injuries are like when the internationals are played against the top 20 odd teams are this. Because that's just a throwaway comment. It means nothing unless you can actually be critical of your opinion enough to actually go into the effort to research to show me that what you're saying's worth considering. Because if you can't, then I'm going to just disregard it.
And Dom, the only evidence we actually have, okay, of people going out to injure somebody because somebody's more skillful comes from a former England international and Phil Neville wanted to do for Thomas Rositzky, and this guy is doing his pro license with the FA. You know, it's more people wanting headlines without looking at stats to back it up and having proof of what they're saying. You know, actually, Joey Barton and Phil Neville should run the FA because they haven't got a clue either.
No. And to draw a line under this entire segment, I will just say this. The English, and I don't speak for everyone, but I certainly speak for a lot of the top brass and pundits, media alike. The English are a very arrogant race, and they are very, very outspoken in things that just because we, quote-unquote, invented the game doesn't give us a right to say how other people should be running it.
But Kris, sorry to cut in, I do apologise, but then again, you know, when I cross the bridge, I get a lovely welcome. I don't find it like that. You know,
I mean in football.
But when I first started going to the Arsenal, okay, I had a lovely welcome on the North Bank. You know, you people are talking to you. It was great. Okay, it's not English people.
No.
It's people in charge of the game.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's at the very top level, and these people that look down and say, well, we're England, therefore, I heard it on 5 Live all last week, Chris Waddle was on about it, and Claridge was on about it, and, we should rock up, we should be, it should be how many we beat Lithuania by. Complete arrogance, and that has to change. But we'll leave that there. It was a good debate. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Again, I appreciate not everyone is interested in this side of the game, but we felt that it was a good time to cover it during a quiet international break. But I want to bring it back full circle to the Arsenal again. And I'm going to turn over at this point to Dom, who is going to introduce you to something that he's been working on very, very in-depthly the past couple of weeks. That's not even a word, but I've made it up. So, Dom, over to you and go for gold.
All right, so I've just been having a bit of a dig at Joey Barton for spouting opinions without having any sort of, statistical evidence to back it up. So I was guilty of that not so long ago when it came to the mythical 30-goal a season striker. So I decided that I was going to go and have a look over the last 24 seasons. Premier League, pretty much statistics only, although the total goals is what we're talking about. So a 30-goal a season striker means someone that scored 30 goals in all competitions, not just Premier League. But I wanted to have a little bit more, I wanted to base my opinion on something a little bit more than just the fact that, it's pretty good fun having a Thierry Henry or informed Van Persie on your side, that talisman, that player that sort of, is banging in all the goals. But I guess the question was asked and has been spoken about, can we win without one? This isn't to support Olivier Giroud. It's not, all these statistics aren't to say, yes, he's good enough, no, he's not good enough. It's just, in general, do you need a 30-goal a season striker to win the Premier League? So basically, I want to start it off by asking you guys a few questions and letting the listeners have a little go so they can play at home as well. But we'll start off with... where are we? What I found is that the defensive record's a little bit more interesting when it comes to winning the league. But what I will start off with, how many times in the 24 seasons did we have a 30-goal a season striker? So someone can just yell out an answer. Everyone at home can have a bit of a think as well.
I'd have thought maybe in 24 seasons, I'd have thought, 10, 9, 8, something like that.
I think 4 or 5.
I say 3.
The answer is 10. Well done, Danny.
Was it?
Yep.
That's a surprise.
Yep. Okay. And so we've won 4 titles in that time. 90, 91, 97, 98, 2001, 2002, and 2003, 2004. So, in those 4 seasons, how many times did we have a 30-goal-a-season striker?
2.
Yes. 2 of the 4, we had a 30-goal-a-season striker. So, we have scored over 80 goals in the Premier League.
Once.
I'll go twice again.
Oh, I'm going to go 3 times.
4 times.
Crikey.
4 times in 24 seasons we've scored more than 80 goals. How many
really
of those?
That good.
No, how many times with those 4 seasons did we win the league?
I'd say all 4.
No, it's
None.
not. It's not. I think it's 2 or none.
I'll say none.
It's 0. 0.
Yep.
So that just gives everybody, I guess, a little bit of an idea that as far as statistically, the average goals for the winners is 79 for the season, and the average against is 32 for the season. So on average over the last 24 seasons, and that includes a couple of seasons that teams went nuts, like in last season Man City scoring 102 goals, and in 2009-10 Chelsea scored 103. So you're going to have a couple of seasons in there that skew your results a little bit, but even so, the average is 79 goals for, 32 goals against. So you want that around, 75 to 79 goal mark, but it's more about how many you can concede on the other end. So if we look at, where are we? The seasons that we won the league, in 2003-2004, the invincible season, we scored 73 goals. 2001-2, we scored 79. 97-98, we scored 68. And in 90-91, we scored 74. So it's not really the goals that you're scoring that are going to win your league, because in the seasons that we won the league, the defensive side of things, in 03-04, we only conceded 26, which is under the average. 01-02, we conceded 36, which is a little bit over. 97-98, we conceded 33, so that's about bang on. And in 90-91, we only conceded 18.
That was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one of the statistical anomalies as far as goals against, because even the teams that have won, I think the lowest is Man United Chelsea conceded 15, I think, in 04-05. So just looking at that, what else have we got here? Okay, so if we go to the Golden Boot, so how many of those 24 seasons did the winning team also contain the Golden Boot winner?
Twice.
Out of 24 seasons.
Oh,
I
sorry, I
got
thought you said 12.
8.
6.
That's a wild guess.
I think I remember Dom telling me the answer to this, so I won't guess.
I'll say 6.
So it's 9. 9 times did the team that won the Premier League also contain the Golden Boot winner. And how many times did the winning team have the top or second best defensive record out of 24 seasons?
You'd have thought most of them, at least half, maybe 13.
I'd have thought about 18 to 20.
Kris, you want to have a go?
I'll say 14 to 16.
So 18 of 24 seasons, the top 2, you needed to have the top 2 defensive record to win the league.
So
Only Manchester United have won by having a defensive record outside of the top 2.
Wow.
I bet you Ronaldo's playing then.
Yeah, they can afford to.
Yeah.
So I think it just shows that there's a much closer correlation to your defensive output than there is with winning the league than there is with the goals scored and 30-goal a season striker and winning the league. Because out of the 4 times that we've won the league, 50% we had a 30-goal a season striker. But in those seasons, we were either first or second with our defensive record. So you have, I remember Theo Walcott said, quite controversially, and the media got stuck into him about it when he said that he thinks that our attack is Well, they said that he said that it was as good as the Invincibles, which isn't what he said. He said when he first arrived at the club, which was in 05-06, which wasn't the Invincibles. However, in 05-06, when he first arrived at the club, Thierry Henry scored 33 goals in all competitions, 27 in the Premier League. We scored 68 as a team. Last season, we scored 68 goals.
Yeah, I mean the thing is,
so when he turns around and says that the attack's just as good as when he first arrived and all the Invincibles, he's right.
Yeah, he's not far wrong, is he?
No. I mean, I know that you're talking about Pires, Van Persie, Lundberg, Henry, obviously, but as far as output goes, you're talking about goals that go in the back of the net. We don't really care how they get there. And that's what I think the confusion is with someone like an Olivier Giroud, is we're so concerned about how the goals are going in, not just the fact that the goals are going in. So someone like Thierry Henry is going to score a much more impressive goal. He's going to dribble past 6 Tottenham players, make them look stupid, and put the ball in the back of the net. And Olivier Giroud is going to flick it, one touch, bang, in the back of the net. And you know that I know, like, because for me, I was one of those people. I admit that I wanted a 30-goal-a-season striker, and I didn't really understand why. But now looking at the statistics, I think that we're more than capable of winning the Premier League without one, but it needs to be tightened up at the back. The defensive output, there needs to be more of a balance between goals for and goals against. And I think the balance in recent seasons, in 10-11 and 11-12, we conceded 43 and 49 goals in those 2 seasons, and we had Van Persie scoring 18 and 30 goals those 2 seasons. So... Yeah.
But I think as well, if we I'd like a 30-goal a season striker. Don't get me wrong, okay? Because they're always handy to have, aren't they? If you can be guaranteed 30 goals a season, it's fantastic. But the great things at the moment is that we're getting goals from all over the park.
That's right, and I think that's the big debate and the big argument for me is that I look at these Thierry Henry stats and I think he's once in a generation player. Not even that, like we probably will never see a guy come in and do what he did for the club. And I think that we've just been lucky with your Alan Smiths, your Ian Wrights. Then it went to Thierry Henry. Then it went to Van Persie. We're just very, very blessed as a club to have had such good, talented strikers. Thierry Henry came in 99-2000, started the goal scoring, and was our leading goal scorer from then until 2005-2006 in that season as well. 7 seasons in a row, he was our leading goal scorer, and that just doesn't happen anymore. But it's just such a rare thing for that to happen that I think we have to look a little bit more realistically, and you can't plan for the what ifs and think, well, we need to bring someone like that in him, because first of all, you can't be guaranteed to find somebody like that in the first place. And if you are, look around the world at the moment, how many of these 30-goal-a-season strikers are there?
I agree with you, John, but I mean, if you look at it, Alan Smith is a great striker for us, okay? No doubt about it. We won in Europe with him, we won the league with him. Ian Wright is our leading goal scorer of all time. Then he was replaced by Thierry Henry. It was 176 was the magic number, was it, Danny?
I was there for that.
Yeah, 176, I'm sure it was, isn't it?
Or 182.
187.
189.
178, wasn't it?
178, that's it.
Mm.
But
I know it was a 1.
The previous leading goal scorer for the Arsenal was Cliff Bastin.
Yep.
And when did he represent the club?
Long
in the
time
30s.
Ago.
Exactly, going back to the 1930s. So it took us 60 years plus to beat that mark. That's how rare these guys are, and we were lucky to have 2 in the same generation, kind of.
Yep, Ian Wright and Thierry Henry were statistical freaks. But even if you're going back to your Ian Wrights, in 92-93, he scored 30 goals in all competitions, 15 in the Premier League. We scored 40 as a team. You can't be having title-winning sides and competing if you have so much reliance on one player like that without other players contributing also. So in the seasons that we were doing well in 2001, 2 and 3, 4 and 2, 3 in these seasons, yes, Thierry Henry was banging in 24, 25, 30 goals in the Premier League, but he was also getting some extra help from other players around the pitch. Now, all that these statistics tell me that if you take a Thierry Henry out the side, if you're a good enough team, all that happens is your left and right wingers add a couple more goals, your midfielders add a couple more goals, because I'm not looking at these 30-goal a seasons and seeing that there's a massive increase in goals. I think that's the thing that made me want to go and do this research was, okay, what does bringing a 30-goal a season striker into the club mean? Does it mean that we add an extra 30 goals to our season's tally? And for 24 seasons, I can see that that's not the case. All that happens is that the production of your Sanchez's, your Ramseys, your Cazolas, your Walcott's, if he's firing, goes down, and the production of the centre forward goes up.
Well, we've seen that with Sanchez after Giroud's come back from injury already this season, haven't we?
Yeah. And so it's not necessarily a case of arguing is what we've got good enough as far as is Giroud. I mean, look, I personally really like the guy. I really do. But this isn't about arguing his point. It's more just to show that what is it that people want from the 30-goal a season striker? What other reasoning is there other than the fact that they're pretty good fun to have on the side, and they're the talisman, they're the leading man. It's all very good and well to have that player up front banging in the goals, but if you look at the seasons that we did well and won the league, the back four are probably just as iconic. In the 90-91 season, in the 97-98 season, in the Invincible season, the back four, including the goalkeeper, were players that played the majority of the season together and formed a really good partnership together and stopped the goals going in at the other end so the people up at the other end could do their thing.
You look at the 6 seasons that Ian Wright was the top goal scorer at Arsenal. In those 6 seasons, we won the League Cup and FA Cup one season, and the Cup Winners' Cup the next season when he didn't even play in the final, and that's it. In 6 seasons. And I remember at the time it was just give the ball to Righty. Like Dave Healy said, get the ball to Righty. That's what everybody did. And the times when Ian Wright didn't play, which because he spent a lot of time banned, and near the end he spent a lot of time injured, when he didn't play, we were shit. I mean, you look at 95-96, he got 22 goals that season, and we did nothing.
Yeah, I think, as well as that, if you've got somebody who, like an Henry, like a Wright, who will get you goals up front, maybe it takes a bit of pressure off your midfield, having to go up and support. The way we play now with Giroud back to goal, he depends on runners from midfield and from the wing, etc. Maybe there's something in that where, you can be a bit more defensive with your midfielders and so forth. But still, you've got to be able to rely on them when push comes to shove, and that guy isn't there who's getting you 30 goals a season. They have to be able to deliver goals as well as do the defensive duties, don't they?
So then in the years when Henry was our top goal scorer, we won 8 trophies. And you look at the number of assists that Ian Wright got, hardly any. The number of assists that Henry would get, loads, because if you gave the ball to Henry, you opened up the entire game, and he would get help everybody get more goals than the entire team was scoring. I mean, when you're playing with Henry and you think, oh, he's going to get all the goals, you look at how many goals Perez got and Ljungberg got. When Kris did the Invincible special thing, he went through each player and how many games they played and goals and assists, and you realise everybody in that team was scoring goals. Even someone like Vieira was getting a bag full of goals for the whole season.
And Sol Campbell would get you a goal, wouldn't he?
Yeah. But I do think, personally, I'd rather have a solid team defensively and then everybody in the team getting the striker getting 20 and the rest of them all getting anywhere between 5 and 10, but a solid defence, because one clean sheet will get you a point, one goal won't necessarily get you a point. One clean sheet can get you all 3 points.
Do you think it's do you think it's a fascination? And I'd be interested to get Dom's view on this with the research you've done. Do you think that the whole goal scoring, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying goals are overrated, but do you think that the goal scoring thing is more of a fashion statement? It's that nobody gets excited about bringing in a defender who's going to potentially save you 10 goals a season, but everyone will get very excited when you're bringing in a striker who could get you 10 more goals. at the other end of the season? Do you think it's a fashion thing?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is that, this is leading into some transfer stuff that we're going to be talking about in a little bit, purely because that's what people want to talk about. That's what people like to hear us talk about. When we do the radio show, I know that we might have just had a really good performance against a Man City, and the comment section's full of who should we sell, who should we buy, Theo's shit, let's get rid of him, let's buy this person, and it's just a fascination now, I guess, with your management games and all this kind of stuff, where you see Chelsea and City going out and United now just going out and spending money left, right, and centre. That I guess that the players that are coming in, the flashy players like the Falcaos, the Di Marias, who have done bugger all anyway, but your Agueros, if you're going back in history, you've got your Ronaldos, your Drogbas, your Van Persies, your Suarez, your Henrys, your Van Nistelrooys. They're all forwards. They're all the players that people remember. Your Alan Shearer's back in the day, your Andy Cole's back in the day. They're all, you're exactly right. They're the most popular players on the team are the ones that are scoring goals, running to the sidelines with their hands in the air and celebrating with the crowd.
But Dom,
you don't have a defender putting in a last-ditch tackle, flicking the ball out for a corner and running off and celebrating, do you?
No. Actually, so this just struck me there, okay? And I agree with you. We spoke before pre-pod about football manager stuff like that and those games. But the bottom line is, if you look at the Ballon d'Or, okay, how many times did the goalkeeper win it?
Yeah.
Michael Owen's won it, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Okay? It's all about goal scorers. And it's not just for the fans, for the players as well. It's about goal scorers. Okay? Yet, to me, Manuel Neuer won the World Cup this year. Manuel Neuer for in recent years for Bayern Munich, they win in the league year in, year out. They win in the Champions League. And he is the mainstay. You build from the bottom up, and the bottom is your goalkeeper. Okay? You got a world-class goalkeeper, you're going places. You've got a chance. But it's always about Ronaldo. It's always about Messi. And it's something where you hear people being interviewed, oh yeah, we wouldn't have done it without Jens, we wouldn't have done it without Manuel Neuer, we wouldn't have done it without Shilton or Seaman. But they're never going to vote for them as the most important player in the team. They're always going to vote for the goal scorer.
Yeah. So if he's not going to win it, then he's never going to. No goalkeeper's ever going to win it, and you're exactly right. I'm just looking through some more of the statistics here, where I've also written down who was the Golden Boot winner and where their team ended up finishing. So in 92-93, Sheringham at Spurs scored 22. They finished 8th. Andy Cole scored 34 for Newcastle the season after, finished 3rd. Shearer 34, they won. Then Shearer 31 at Blackburn, they finished 7th. Who else did we have? Kevin Phillips scored 30 for Sunderland, finished 7th. Hasselbank 23 at Chelsea, finished 6th. There's teams that are not even getting close to winning that are having the leading goal scorer on their side, and yet, like I just said before, there's no teams that are finishing with the 8th best defensive record and winning the league.
No, I think it's a really fascinating debate, and some of those stats that you've mentioned there will really get people sort of sitting there thinking, crikey, I've learned something myself just from listening to that, and I think many other people will listen to that and think, Christ, that's didn't expect that. Dom, you kind of did allude to the fact that we're going to pander to the masses, and we're going to talk a little bit of tittle tattle and transfers. Now, bear in mind, this is being broadcast on the 1st of April. It's April Fool's Day, so we've got to be careful who we say we're linked with here, with the current links. But, Jace, I know you've put some things out on the Facebook page about some names and got some feedback on that. I want us to all just have a general discussion about what we think we need, what we think we might get, etc. So, Jace, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, Mark Lewis has asked, would you swap Wilshere, Walcott, Arteta, Flamini and Szczesny for Zlatan?
Oh, yes.
I know, it's one of those questions which just get you going, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You say yes, right? Danny?
Read those names again.
It is Wilshere, Walcott, Arteta, Flamini and Szczesny for Zlatan.
That's arguably £70 million worth of talent. No. Although I would love to see someone come on and Zlatan the Premiership and just show Jose how it is to be an arrogant twat and do things properly. I'd love it, but it's not going to happen.
Okay, Dom, would you do that?
No, purely because Wilshere and Walcott would be worth more than what Zlatan would be worth now.
Okay,
at least 30
fair
each.
comment. Yeah, that's
guys,
fair comment.
bear with me a second. I'm going to flip this on its side.
Ooh.
Would you swap those players for Gareth Bale? Dom?
Oh, that's a bit tougher. Yeah, I would. Bugger it.
Danny?
Well, I'd like to see the back of some of them, but Bale will go for 50 million at the maximum, between 40 and 50 million.
But
and
Danny,
we'll get...
Danny,
No, I wouldn't.
would you swap those those 4 players? Sorry,
No.
5 players.
5. Yeah.
No.
Bearing in mind, 2 of them are worthless to us. Okay, there's no financial value selling on. There's 3 of them you pick up money for. Would you swap them for Gareth Bale? Yes or no?
No.
No. Right, Kris.
No.
I would see, because I don't see any one of those players who would tip us over to be a title winning side. I do think Gareth Bale would.
I think he would. But you could sell the bits individually, and then you could buy him and have change.
My reasoning would be slightly different to all of yours, I think.
Go on, then what's the reasoning?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say Gareth Bale's shit, because he's not. He's clearly is. If he's not world class, he's very much close to it as you could get.
Bear with me a second, okay, Kris. He's the most expensive footballer in the world. He's world class. There's no question mark over it. He's not maybe in the top 10. He's top 5 footballers in the world simply because he commands the money. Okay.
All I'll say is I wouldn't want us to pay that much money for an ex-scum. There's something that doesn't sit right with me.
If he wins you the league title, look at 2 of the players who came from that club.
So who does he play instead of?
Pat Jennings, okay,
Sol Campbell.
and Sol Campbell. Okay?
Yeah.
Don't think of him as a Tottenham player. Think of him as a Southampton player. That's where he started.
Okay, I think of him as a Welshman.
Who does he replace?
Well, yeah.
Let's get this straight, okay? You play him on the left.
Yeah. When you move Sanchez to the right.
And you move Sanchez to the right. As simple as that.
So you leave out Santi Cazorla, who's been arguably our best player this season.
I'm not being funny. Santi Cazorla doesn't look like winning us the league. As wonderful a footballer as he is, he doesn't look like winning us the league. Gareth Bale would. Walcott doesn't deliver on the big stage.
I'll give you that, yeah.
Okay. Santi Cazorla, how many goals from open play has he scored this season?
3.
3, 2 or 3.
He's a different type.
I'm guessing it could be 0. I don't think it is.
Gareth Bale's a match winner. He's
well, let's get to the Gareth Bale debate in just a second. I've got a little bit on some statistics when it comes to the Theo argument. Cool. So I've heard a lot of people say that we've got replacements in club when it comes to Theo if he was to leave, which if he's not going to be talking about contracts now, then there's probably a fair chance that the argument could be made that he probably won't be here. So it's not a moot point, but Walcott in 294 Arsenal games has scored 72 goals and 62 assists. For a right-sided player, that is quite good production. Now, we can argue that he doesn't do enough when he's not either scoring or assisting, a bit like a right-sided Podolski. Oxlade-Chamberlain has had 114 starts for 12 goals and 18 assists. So for me, personally, I don't know what you guys think, that's not a replacement for that position. It's not enough. So if we're looking at potentially losing Podolski, potentially losing Joel Campbell, and potentially losing Walcott, I don't want to have the discussion of putting Welbeck out wide because I think it's ridiculous to suggest that he's a wide player because he's not. I think we've got the money. I think we've got the money now to buy players in the positions that we need to buy players in, rather than going, oh well, he can play out there. We should say, you know what? He's a striker. He can play second fiddle to Giroud because we need squad depth. Let's buy a proper right and or left-sided player. So let's go through a little bit about why you potentially don't think Walcott could be that player, regardless of. Don't worry about his contract demands or anything like that. I just want the discussion based on his production and what he gives the team and what he brings the team and why you think that it wouldn't be the end of the world if he was to go. So we'll start with you, Kris.
So why... It's a difficult one to answer. I agree with you. I don't think that If you let Walcott go, I don't think we've got enough to just say we don't buy. If you do you want names as well as to who I would look at replacing him with?
I've got some here that we might go through in a minute. I just want to sort of
Okay.
have more of the Walcott discussion just for a second.
More of why I would let him go or wouldn't. Um, it's a really, really difficult one to judge because, like you say, you've got to bring in adequate replacement. As I said before, I agree with you. I don't think we've got enough to replace him now. I am in the camp that if he is asking for money that is on parallel with our top earners, I don't think he's earned that yet. But I'm also in the same camp to say that we've not seen the best of him since the injury, and I've always erred on the side of caution with regards to his injury, mainly based on what you said previously about some players come back, and I know we've seen all the stats about how he's actually even quicker now than before his injury. But it's not just so much the physical damage, but it's the mental damage. And also, we've changed our game in the time Theo Walcott's been out of the side. I think we've changed. Not only have we changed personnel at the club, that we've changed our style of play, we've changed our formation, and I don't think we're necessarily playing to the best system that suits Theo. If I had the final say, or if I had the decision to make, I would say that you only let Theo Walcott go if you're bringing in a player of a higher level than him. I don't think just replacing him like for like it justifies it enough. Why would you weaken your side losing a player of his ability unless you're upgrading? And as you said, we'll come on to different names, but for me, you keep him unless you can upgrade, and that's the same probably for any player. If come to that.
Danny, what do you think on Theo?
Premier League games, 202. Premier League goals, 47. He's got 10. He's been double figures in the Premier League once in 9.5 seasons. Not good enough. He's like me when I play Battlefield 4. I'll have one game where I'll be third top killer, and the rest of the time I'm thinking, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Bloody hell, I've killed someone. How did I do that? I don't know how to do that, and then I panic. He doesn't believe in himself.
As you do it.
I'm sorry. End of argument. Danny just won podcasting.
Just one.
What I will say to that though, Danny, is I'm just looking at your Highbury statistics.
Yes.
And where are all of these other players that are... Theo's not a striker. He's a right-sided forward. That's where he's always played. 2012-13, top scorer. 2011-2012, second behind Van Persie, who was the striker.
We did play him up top. We did play him up top that season as well.
What, once? Twice?
Half a dozen games. He still played up top.
2010-2011, Robin Van Persie top scored, then Sami Nasri and Theo Walcott basically about the same. One was left, one was right. So you can't really say he's not scoring enough goals from that position, because unless you're going to compare him and show me the production of another right-sided forward that's scoring you more goals.
Yeah, but you look at that season when you said he was our second top goal scorer. He got 5 goals in one game against Reading, didn't he? Or did he get 4 in one game?
Against Newcastle.
Doesn't matter, he's still our second top scorer.
Was it? No, I thought he went in the 7-5. Did he score 4 or 5 goals in that game?
That was the Cup.
Yeah, so I said the League Cup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so in the League Cup, that season he scored 5 goals in 2 games. That's 2.5 goals a game. That's world class, that is, in the League Cup against Reading. You take out those 5 goals, that means that season he scored 16 goals in 42 games. Not good enough.
Yeah, what about assists?
Assists that season, yeah, it doesn't. As usual on the English wiki, it doesn't tell you assists, but it's just he doesn't believe in himself. I think we believe in him more than he believes in himself, which is a shame.
All I'm saying is that his production, the production that you get from a right-sided forward. I'm asking the question now: who's out there that's giving the same sort of production?
I'd rather see Gnabry playing on the right side.
Give me those statistics of appearances to goals again.
294 appearances, 72 total goals, 62 total assists.
Okay, so I'll give you this one. Marco Reus has played 202 career games and he scored 77 goals, and people are deeming he is world class. What's the difference? There's not a lot in it, is there? And for the record, 3 of those seasons were with Borussia Dortmund, 3 of them were with Borussia Mönchengladbach, and 1 was with Rot-Weiss Aheim, which is his Bundesliga 2 club. So it's all. I agree with you, Dom. It's a good point. People are saying that People are saying that we should go after Royce. Well, his stats are not a lot different to Theo Walcott's.
However, what Royce does on the other side of the game is he's probably a lot more involved with link-up play and getting back,
Agreed.
which is
He's
why
I
think that he's a different type and he's a better footballer for our system than what Theo is.
And
That's not necessarily the argument. What I'm trying to put to you guys is saying that Gnabry and Oxlade-Chamberlain can do the job Theo does. I don't think it's correct. Oxlade-Chamberlain, 12 goals and 114 starts. 114 games. That's not the production you want from that side of. I think that you can get that production out of Oxlade-Chamberlain from the midfield.
But let's get something straight. The Ox is younger, Gnabry's younger. Okay, their careers will develop in a different way. What we're looking at with Theo's an incredibly talented player. I'd like nothing better than Theo Walcott signing another contract and to be a success at Arsenal Football Club and to win the league title with us. It's hard to dislike Theo Walcott. But what Theo Walcott's not is a match winner. For all these stats, when we're in the clinch and he's 1-on-1 with the keeper in the last minute, how many times does he bury it and how many times does he bottle it? That's more of the thing we're looking at with Theo. Incredibly talented, yes. Poor bugger with injury the last couple of seasons, yes. Very unlucky. But he's 26 now. He needs to start believing in himself. He's not even, he's just making the bench at the moment. He's not making the starting 11 that often. Now, whether that's because he's come back from injury or Arsene Wenger's got the hump with him, who knows? We don't know. But I want Theo Walcott to be a match winner for Arsenal Football Club. Nothing would make me happier. But I've seen no evidence. I can think of 2 games where he's been a real threat against top quality teams. Daniel mentioned Chelsea as well. There's a Barca game, there's a game against Liverpool, and maybe there's a couple of Chelsea games. But other than that, I don't see him digging us out of trouble. There are players out there who can do it.
Just before we get to those, Jace, I've got a couple quick little things for Theo, then we'll draw a line under it.
Yeah.
As far as him coming back from injury goes, we gave Aaron Ramsey a long time, or the manager gave Aaron Ramsey a long time. He played him until he was better again.
Yeah,
the season before. I don't disagree. All I'm saying is though that we're not going to see the best Theo until he has had the same amount of game time to then get to that point where we can judge. We can't judge after 8 games. It's not enough. And a few bench performances. So I'm not writing him off based on how he's come back because as far as understanding the ACL injury and understanding how bad they can be and career-threatening they can be, he's not going to be getting better while he's sitting on the bench. No. So if he's sitting on the bench because of contract negotiations or because of the injury, it's irrelevant. He's not going to get the time to then get matched up for us to actually have the debate whether he's good enough or not. And the other last little thing was that if we rewind 12 months ago, we would have all been sat here saying that if Theo hadn't got injured, we would have won the league. Yes, the team was working differently then. Chris made a good point that the team is geared differently now. However, to say that he's not important and to say that he isn't a game changer, I think is wrong because where he makes his runs from is off the shoulder of defenders. So when he picks the ball up, he's in behind defences. We don't have players that do that. Because Oxlade-Chamberlain, Welbeck, Gnabry, these guys that we're talking about pick the ball up and dribble at players. You look at the top dribblers, the statistics, Oxlade-Chamberlain's always at the top. He likes to get the ball, he likes to dribble past players. Walcott's one of the only players we've got that will make a run for an Ozil, Ramsey, Cazorla to find in behind the defence. And that, I think, is a big difference as to why I think that he's not just replaceable with what we've got.
But Dom, I don't disagree with any of those points. I can't disagree with them because they're all valid, okay? But the one thing about him is, when we're in a clinch, when he's got too much time on the ball, more often than not, he messes it up. He's an instinct player, okay? Will he ever regain the form he started to show last season, coming back from this ACL? You can't guarantee it. I can't guarantee it. Nobody can, okay? And his contract negotiations... his contract's nearly up. He's got a season that when it's the summer. The club have to do something about it. That's not the club's fault that he got injured. It's not Theo's fault that he got injured. if Theo today was to say, do you know what, I'm going to sign a contract extension of a year to give me more time to prove to Arsenal Football Club that I can do it. We can up his goal bonus or whatever it is, but not his weekly wage. Nobody would moan. Nobody would complain. But you can sense the saga coming.
Absolutely. And which is exactly why it sounds like I've been in his corner defending him, but it's exactly why if he wants more money, he can get stuff, we're going to sell him, and that's why we're going to get on to who we can replace him with. Because what I think the other main issue is with Theo's contract negotiations is that agents all around the Premier League and all around Europe are aware of the Champions League money and is more specifically the Premier League money about to be going through the roof. So even if he thinks that he's justified a pay rise or not, his agent's going to be wanting a nice slice of the pie. So he can go and get stuffed if he wants extra money. Goodbye, see you later. That's why we're going to have a little bit of a chat about, I think there's no point of getting rid of him. And my argument is that, no, we don't have a direct replacement for him at the club. So if we look at Podolski probably going, Joel Campbell probably going, and Theo probably going, we may have Alexis, who's a naturally, a goal-scoring wide player. Oxlade-Chamberlain can play there. However, I think that he's probably more suited to midfield. I still think that we're probably a wide forward short. So if we look at the problem that I guess Theo may bring where he divides opinion is that he doesn't give us enough, and Podolski never gave us enough when it came to tracking back and defensive efforts. So there's a couple of players that I want to throw at you, Royce being one of them. Probably less than likely that we would even have a sniff at being able to buy him, especially now that his release clause has disappeared. He's more than likely going to be off to one of the real big boys. But as far as production goes, Kris brought up the stats before earlier. Same with, you had some good statistics on Bale, Jace, if you'd like to give us those about the same time that he started going from a left back to playing further up the pitch.
Okay, so if you're looking at since purely Premier League, Theo Walcott joined the Arsenal in 2005-2006, didn't start playing for us till 2006 or 7. In that time, he's played 181 games for us, and he has scored 43 goals. Gareth Bale went from Southampton to Tottenham Hotspur in 07-08 as a left back. He didn't start playing further up until a couple of seasons later, or a season later. From 07-08 to 12-13, there were 146 games he played for Tottenham, and he scored 42 goals. You're looking at a goal return, a far better goal return. More to the point, he was more of a match winner.
It's that's the kind of production that I guess you'd be after from those wider forwards. They're not going to score you a goal a game because that's not necessarily their job. The assist rate's probably a little bit more than their goal rate, to be honest, but it's their ability to finish, isn't it? Like we've seen with Welbeck, he's played out wide, which isn't really favourable, but he's still found himself in positions to score goals, but he hasn't been able to do the business in front of goal just yet.
Yeah, but the
so
thing is,
hopefully that will come.
I'd expect those Bale's stats from Theo. I think Theo's talented enough to do it. But
you want to hear my analogy on why Theo's got problems?
Yeah, go.
It's Theo. The worst thing ever to happen to Theo Walcott was his hat-trick against Croatia. That's the equivalent of meeting Kat Dennings in Nando's and pulling her. He's done it once, and everyone thinks he can do it again, and deep down he knows he'll never do it again.
Yeah, look, Theo's always going to be one that's opinion because I actually think that he's quite a good finisher.
But he doesn't come across like a footballer, though, does he? He's more like a geography teacher. That's his problem. Maybe he needs to hang around and don't be so educated, so clever and such a nice bloke. Maybe he needs to go and hang around with the chavs. So if he goes to Liverpool, he'll do wonders.
The one thing that just to draw a line on the Theo, the one thing that I would hate is for us to sell him and for him to reach his potential somewhere else because I think that he has a lot more to. Like we've all been saying, all we want is for him to reach his potential, and I hope that if he does, it is with us because there is a hell of a player in there.
I would be so sad if he didn't, and it was with someone else.
Exactly. If he does go to Liverpool and ends up, scoring a bunch of goals and playing really well there, then it'd be a nightmare because there's no guarantee that. First of all, there's no guarantee that you're going to replace him, because we know how hard it is to buy these types of players on the market. Second of all, even if we do go out and spunk £30 million on God knows, there's no guarantee they're going to come into the Premier League and produce anyway. So,
but the flip side of that, Dom, is if Walcott is expecting a bigger payday, whether it be with us or whether it be elsewhere, if he does go elsewhere, he may not settle in at a Liverpool or at a Man City. He may not be loved, but nobody can love Theo Walcott more than some of the Arsenal fans out there. To be fair, I think half of them are mad the way they love him. I like Theo a lot. I'd love to see him do well for us, but on what he gives us at times, I'm not his biggest fan. I really am not. But he's loved by Arsenal fans. Loved. He's not guaranteed that elsewhere. He's really not.
I think you've seen that with a lot of players that have gone, Van Persies and Nasris and things like that, and they're never going to be, they're never going to be appreciated anywhere. Torres, same thing.
That actually is a point. How many players leave us and do well long term?
Not many.
Not many. No.
There used to be not many. Now it's everybody. Anyone who went to Man City wins stuff.
Oh yeah, but
not
Barcelona.
Not personal success though. They haven't gone and become better.
Oh fuck personal success when you're on £300,000 a week and holding out off the Champions League, which is all they give a fuck about.
Robin van Persie gave Manchester United one good season, and it's blatantly obvious that when we sold him, that was the reason we sold him.
Robin van Persie only ever gave us one good season.
Exactly, that's exactly my point. So we knew we could cash in because we knew that he only had one or two really top seasons left in him. And we got one of them, and they got one of them. And really, it was Ferguson's last big buy, wasn't it?
Haleb went to Barca failure. Cesc has won trophies with Barcelona, but he went to his hometown club, and his own fans never loved him. Never gave a shit.
There's not too many guys that have gone on to bigger and better things, really. Next, I want to ask Kris, because you seem to be, you watch a lot of football, you know a lot of players. Without being too much of a football hipster and naming a bunch of people that no one's going to have any idea about, what are some actual, replacements for Theo that you could see coming in and starting in our team?
There's a couple of names I've got for him. One, obviously, you've mentioned Marco Reus. Despite the contract, I do put it this way. If he was to become available, I think we'd be sniffing. Whether we could afford him or not is open to debate. But I'll give you a couple more. There's Pedro at Barcelona. There's a lot of talk that he will be on the move at the end of the season because they're sort of rebuilding and doing things differently. I think he's one to consider. I think Lucas Moura at PSG, who's another sort of wide midfielder. And whilst he's quite happy there, I wouldn't be surprised if you look at what's going on with Angel Di Maria. PSG are very, very much on his trail. If it means that they've got to get rid of one, which it would with financial fair play, I think Moura could likely be the one because they're not going to get rid of Zlatan. And even if they got rid of Cavani, I don't think they're going to get the same amount of money they get from Moura.
You think Zlatan's going to have another season? Why would he want to do that?
Because of the money, because of the fact that he's at the age he's at. I think his time to try another league is gone. I think that was his PSG was his last big move. I think personally.
Has he never heard of Celtic?
That's where he actually ironically said he wanted to end his career, but you're seriously telling me they could afford his wages?
I'd go and play for nothing.
Yeah, you would, but...
I did this thing once with Online Arsenal, the best Arsenal forum out there, run by Fabster and a couple of others, and I said, you've got a 20-year career, starting at 16, finishing at 36. Tell me your 20 teams like that. Maybe we'll do it one time, but it got some really interesting answers on how people sort of like one-man club. I think I played for 8 different clubs. Started off at Barnet, ended up at Celtic, I think.
You hoited yourself around. The only others that I'll give you, Draxler. Rumours don't go away, whatever anyone thinks. I know we had a chat pre-pod. I think he is one that the boss clearly likes him, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says. I think he likes him, and I think if you look at the options available, he's probably the one that, if you look at Schalke, if you look at the situation he's in, the fact that they've got a ready-made replacement in Max Meyer, I think he would probably be realistic. The only other one that I'd throw into the mix, which is completely left field, but I could sort of see, dare I say it, in the Jovino mould, is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at Dortmund. Because He's very quick, and if you
and when he played for Saint Etienne, didn't he?
yeah, and if
he was top goal scorer, and he was brilliant that season.
If you look at his goal return, it's pretty decent, and he's very much a player that it almost mirrors what Walcott is. The difference being that he's probably slightly better a finisher given the way he plays. I'm not saying Dortmund would let him go, but if they had the opportunity to bring somebody else in, I could see that happening. The only other players that you could look at, and I won't go into names here, but the only other thing I would say is if we let Theo go, what's the chances of us changing our system and saying, well, you know what, as you were saying there, Dom, we're letting a player go and we need to replace him. Maybe the boss thinks we can actually do without a wide player like Walcott. Maybe we should be veering more towards another Santi Cazorla and maybe trying to build more of a central attacking force rather than a wide attacking force. But that's the names I would put out there at this point, realistic targets.
All right, so I want a name from each of you of who you would get then. Danny?
For what position?
For a wide forward to replace Theo Podolski and Campbell. It needs to be someone that can come straight into the team.
Yeah, Gnabry. I love the way Gnabry runs down that wing and you cannot get him off the ball, and the way he crosses. We've got him already at the club, and then I'd spend the money on a proper left-sided person. So I'd still play Sanchez in the attacking side on the right, but yeah, Sanchez isn't going to be there forever. I just love watching Gnabry play. He's a beast.
Where are you playing Gnabry?
We play Sanchez on the right because that's where his best position is, and then we spend the money on a left-hand side player for the money you get from
who are
Walcott.
you getting?
It's
a wide forward.
Bale.
Okay, Bale.
Bale 50 million.
There you go. Jace?
I'd be in floods of tears.
Look, as a Welshman, obviously I'd pick Bale. Okay, I don't see him leaving Real Madrid. So
what?
I don't see him.
They hate him.
No, they don't.
The
fans do.
That's what
Some fans do. The president
hold up, yeah. Let's be honest, okay. A lot of people get booed. What you see reported is what the press want to report.
I was watching the game.
Yeah, but they're booing Casillas, their greatest player ever.
Yeah. It would take something extraordinary for Bale to leave Real Madrid.
I think
after 12 months.
Maybe him and Ramsey can
club, isn't it?
get a flat together.
He wants to play for them.
He supported Arsenal.
Well, yeah, but his dream was always to play in a Real Madrid shirt, and he's got that. Now, why would he now suddenly walk away and say, you know what?
I'm more to the point, okay, right? He's not an idiot. He's a very grounded guy. He's prepared to work hard, okay? He's prepared to get there. He learned a few things under Harry Redknapp, as much as I hate to say it. But, he's not out in clubs. It's not all about him. He just wants to play football.
I remember a time at Tottenham where he was getting some similar abuse, and Tottenham fans wouldn't have cared about selling him. And then fast forward a season or two, and he's the world's most highest transfer. So
it's always a case of be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. All right. So, if you got any other names that you think would be more realistic, if you don't think Bale?
Yeah, Draxler. There's something about him. He's big. He's big and strong. I know he's had some injury problems. I just think he's more realistic than any.
I'll give you some stats on Draxler. 159 games for Schalke, 29 goals, 29 assists, and he's only 21 years old. So
too many nines.
That's you don't like the odd numbers, Danny. Sorry,
no.
I can round them up
to sort that out.
Yeah,
give
him
one
more
goal.
Game, one goal, one assist, and we'll be able to buy him then. Beautiful.
He's done.
But if you look at Oxlade-Chamberlain's production, who's played slightly less games, pretty similar age, 12 goals, 18 assists. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to a wide forward, where there needs to be a bit more of a balance, I think, between Walcott maybe too attacking-minded and not being able to get involved in the link-up play enough. And I think Oxlade-Chamberlain may be sitting too deep and not creating enough of a goal threat. And Draxler seems to have this, on paper anyway, the stats to be somewhere in the middle, where basically a little bit similar to Royce, where he's a good enough goal threat, good enough finisher to be able to pop up and score your goals, a bit like the old Pires position, but he can also sit back and be part of the link-up play and play final balls through if he needs to as well. So for me, and he's 187 centimetres tall, so he's a pretty tall...
I've told you about that nonsense.
6'2".
Thank you.
6'1", 6'2".
So, Yeah, and the thing with the Pedro links is I look at it and go, I'm just done. I'm so done with small technical players that get the lumps kicked out of them every week.
How old is
You know,
Pedro now?
I
He's
want
30.
someone. He's getting. I don't think we'll get it. I think maybe if he does go to England, it'll probably be a Liverpool or something. But look, I just think that a guy on that wide forward position that's a bit taller with a bit of pace and a bit of power, a Bale, a Royce, a Draxler, that type of mould is hard to find. Even who's the guy? Oh, Schürrle, the one from at Chelsea.
Oh, he's a
You know,
good player.
someone like that that's got that different attributes to what we currently have, which is now going to get onto the centre forward position just quickly, because like we've discussed, I don't think there's any point discussing about trying to get in a 30-goal a season striker. We've got Giroud, who's your centre forward link-up play guy. What about an alternative? You know, I think that it's important to have different options off the bench. What someone that's a natural striker is out there potentially that we could look at that is going to bring a different dimension to the team. Because I think Sonogo is probably quite similar to what Giroud brings too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Are you looking at somebody who's going to come in and challenge as a starter, or are you looking at somebody
Yeah,
who's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we all know who mine is then.
Lacazette.
Yeah.
What are his stats, Chris? Got to back something up here.
I could give you his stats, no problem at all. Just while I'm doing that, the reason why I would bring him in, or for me, is that he suits the style of play. The obvious comparisons to Thierry Henry, a wide forward that's been converted to a centre forward. I know some people have said since he's come back from injury, he's not been in form. Give him a chance. 144 games, 53 goals. Doesn't sound a lot, but when you consider of that, what is that, 7 seasons now with Lyon, he played at least 3 of those seasons as a wide forward, so a Theo Walcott almost. I just think he's got pace, he's got dynamism, he's got an eye for an assist. You could arguably even say you could bring in a Fekir and link up the two, because the two of them are brilliant. I think if you put a player of his ability, with no disrespect to Lyon, with a Sanchez, with a Cazorla, with a Ramsey, I think he's one big move away from being top quality, proper world class. And really, it's only his loyalty to stay with Lyon that's not gotten that move yet. So, for me, that's the one. And sorry, it's boring, but that's the one I want.
Jace, have you got a centre forward?
Yeah, I do like Cavani. The problem with him is he's 28 now. He's been playing the wing in PSG. He's not been enjoying himself out there as he was when he was at Napoli. He's similar to Giroud, but he's got more pace. I think he's a bit more of a natural goal scorer than Giroud, although Giroud's been fantastic this season and really upped his game. I just think with Arsene Wenger, he'd thrive. You know, I've got no evidence to back that up, obviously, but, you know, this season he's played, 19 games, he's got 8 league goals, okay? So he's getting 1 in 2, nearly, okay? And that's from playing out in the wing. So for all these people who think he's finished, he's obviously not. But, you know, you're looking at the player and the club as well, and the manager, and how they will mesh. I don't think it's as simple as just stats. I think he would relish the challenge of an Oli Giroud, and I think Giroud would relish the challenge of him. He's a bit different. He offers you more pace going forward. Yeah, that's who I'd go for.
He's probably will be available too.
Yeah,
I think for me, I would have preferred him just after Napoli before he went to PSG.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
we've got him just after Napoli, I think that it would have been a good move. But now I'm not so sure. But that's just basically just opinion. That's not based on anything. It would
depend on the money as well, wouldn't it? You're not going to pay 30+ million quid for a 28-year-old here.
No.
Can I just lob in one other quick thing just before you go, Danny? One of the stat that I'd be crucified if I didn't mention is that Lacazette is the 3rd top scorer in Europe this calendar year
He's got 23
or this
goals,
season.
hasn't he?
He's got 23 and 26, which is, I mean, and he averages, his minutes to goal ratio is 97 minutes per goal, roughly 97.4 to be exact. So it's 0.88 goals per game. Only Messi and Ronaldo have got a higher average. So that okay, yeah. Granted, I know people say, well, it's only one season, but this is a season that he's been so consistent. I genuinely think that move you'd see that continue.
Well, Olivier Giroud was the top scorer before he came to us, and he's turned out okay.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
You can't point to the whole, it's only the French league either.
Oh, God, no, I agree.
Yeah, but it's how we, would he develop under Wenger as well? I think yes, he
absolutely.
would. And undoubtedly, he'd become a better player, wouldn't he?
Well, look at Henry. I mean, came as a wide forward, and look what he did. I'm not saying that he would be the same, but he's a Wenger player. He's exactly the sort of player Wenger would work with.
Yeah.
Danny, are you going to just say Ibrahimovic, are you?
No, I'm going to say Stone Cold Charlie Austin. Is there a more Giroud-like striker out there? 14 in 23 this season for a shit team.
Do you know what, Dan? I think you're onto something there.
Thank you very much.
He wouldn't cost you the world, would he?
No.
And he'd do a job for you.
And he's
That's
leaving
the thing.
QPR.
We don't need to necessarily... That was basically a lot of the argument, isn't it? Do we need to upgrade Giroud? And
no.
We definitely need someone. We need a different option, which is probably the main theme of why I'm asking you guys this question. Is just someone a bit different.
Yeah, because sorry, you need to upgrade on Theo for certain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just a different option for all.
Yeah, just a different option. Yeah.
And I think you'd arguably
want the same option.
I think arguably you want a player that is different to Giroud, i.e., there's no point just bringing in another lump up front.
Well, it works.
Oh yeah, it works. But like Dom said, you've got Sonogo, who arguably will be learning from Giroud.
I mean, and Welbeck can play a little bit of a hold up and some flick on type stuff as well. It's more of that mid-size,
I'll have Tevez then.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I'd take him, but I can't see him leaving Juve.
But having said that as well, guys, okay, this season we've got something different to Danny Welbeck. Okay, no offense to Yaya Sanogo, he's not even getting game time for Palace. Okay, that diving Glenn, whatever his chops is, Glenn Murray is starting ahead of him. Charlie, where we've lost out this season was when Giroud was injured. So a like for like may not be the worst thing in the world.
System works, keep it.
Okay.
He's brilliant. And I bet he'll play back to goal as well.
I'll give you one more then, if you're going to say about players that are potentially available in the summer that can do the Giroud role but add a little bit more. There's a fellow, and I can hear John Welsh scratching his beard intelligently as we speak, but there's a lad at Inter Milan called Mauro Icardi, who...
He's not bad.
Who's been
How old's Icardi now?
From memory, 24, but I will look it up. But he's on the move.
He's been on forever, though, isn't he?
Not really. He was at Sampdoria. Before that, he was playing in Argentina, and he's not. I mean, he's not sort of prolific. I'll give you his stats: 82 competitive appearances, 35 goals. Sampdoria. So he came through the youth system in youth football. Went to Sampdoria. At Samp, he got 33 games and scored 11 goals. And at Inter, this season, he's got 15 in 27. The thing with Icardi, he's actually 22, so younger than I thought. But yeah, Argentine by birth. Now coming through this has kind of been his breakthrough season. Now he is, I don't know what 181 centimeters is in metric, but
in real money.
In real money,
6 foot.
6 foot. There you go. So he's big, he's bulky. 181. Giroud is 193. So there is a difference there. The thing I like about Icardi though is there is a bit of pace, there is a bit of trickery. He's an arrogant so and so. He's a bit of a dick, to be perfectly honest. Anyone that knows the story, his ex-missus will know all about that. But
and into a dog shit this season. He's looking good in a shit team.
The only thing I would say is he does divide opinion in that he's not particularly well liked, which is the reason he's probably going to move on. So
isn't he the guy? Is
Maxi Lopez? Yes,
that's the word.
Yeah,
but not being funny, guys. Okay, he's a dick. There's no way Arsene Wenger's going to sign him. No way.
How about the kid Palermo, Dybala?
Yeah, I'm getting on to him.
Oh, all right. Shut up.
No, you can go for it now. So there's obviously been some links with him. I think it's all agent talk, to be honest, to try to get Juventus to actually offer...
Too much money for someone too young.
Well, I think it's just to get Juventus to offer actual money and not just shit players they don't want anymore.
Yep.
But, they're saying that we've been talking to the club, so let's run with it anyway. What do you guys think about him? He's a little bit more of a, your shorter, speedy, tricky South American type forward. Chris, you would have seen him play a little bit.
He's
Go on,
hardworking. He's hardworking, isn't he? He's a real terrier. He's hardworking. He's up for the fight. He's very skillful.
Yeah. If you're looking to replace, this is where I think some people have got the wrong end of the stick with Dybala. He's got a partnership with Vasquez, who actually played for Italy tonight, believe it or not, which is mental in itself. He's been naturalised to Italian passports, but those two as a pair are fantastic. When one of the other or the other is missing, they tend to be a bit more quiet. The thing with Dybala is that I don't think his best position is a centre forward. He is that guy behind. He's your Dennis Bergkamp.
He's an Ozil.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're looking to upgrade on Santi...
And he knows it.
Yeah, if you're looking to upgrade on Santi Cazorla with regards to age, because obviously Santi has just turned 30 and realistically we're going to get 2, maybe 3 years at his peak left of Santi. So if you want a player who's going to come in, arguably like when we bought Reyes, who's going to come in and could potentially do it, then yes. The one thing I would say with Dybala is if he bulks up a bit, which he probably will, and he continues his goal scoring streak, I mean, he's every bit, or will be every bit, as good as Aguero if he carries on the trajectory his career is going. But the sort of money that it's talk, I mean, 40 million?
Sorry, guys, but can I just chip in there 1 second? I know you said he's a bit quiet when Vasquez doesn't play, but they are playing for Palermo.
Yeah, fair point, yeah.
Not the greatest club in the world, is it?
No.
And he's Argentinian. To be fair to these Argentinian lads, that wherever they go, they've got the gumption about them to succeed.
Yeah, if he bulks up and he becomes, because if you look at Tevez and you look at Aguero, they're both physical. Even Alexis, they're physical specimens. They're well decked, and Dybala is a little bit. He's getting there, but he's not quite as big.
Isn't he?
Exactly. Yeah. So if he can bulk up. And like Dom says, I personally have said all along, I think it's agent talk. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure we're interested because he's one of the top talents in Europe. Why would we not be interested? But to say that these talks of, we've met their agents and we've had a cup of coffee and we've shaken hands, and I mean, that to me is like Dom said, it's agent talk. But if we did go for him, as I say, I stand by it. I do think he'll be given 2, maybe 3 years. I think people will talk about him in the same light as they do Aguero, if he keeps his powder dry and keeps his progression going.
Well, I'm interested in Kat Dennings, and she's not moving in.
True.
Since you just said that, Chris, I'm gonna give you some stats on the Aguero Dybala comparison, which a lot of people have done, not just you. So I'm not picking on you.
Phew.
He only played in the Serie B last year.
Yep.
5 goals, 6 assists in 28 matches. All right. And this is.
But they did have a rough season last season because Palermo was my small Italian team. They've had, I think, 3 managers last season, including Gennaro Gattuso, one of the greatest ever Italians ever. Yeah. And they're all over the place, and they're known for flogging players sooner rather than later.
Before you start going off on one, Danny,
sorry,
Aguero at the same age in the Spanish league, playing for Atletico, 12 goals, 5 assists in 31.
Yep.
So double. And then the season after, this is comparing Aguero and Dybala at the same ages. 12 goals, 8 assists in 27 games so far this season for Palermo. Aguero in his last season for Atletico, 20 goals, 4 assists in 32 at 22 years old. So when you say that he's on track, given a few years, he's not even close to producing what Aguero was at the same age.
Yeah, but different clubs, and let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely, but I think
Spain's a 3-team league.
I think that saying that he's on, comparing to Aguero, maybe because he's Argentinian and he's the same height and he runs around the pitch a little bit similar. Yeah. However, at the same age, he's not producing anywhere near what Aguero was. I think Aguero was £40 million he cost, which is probably similar to what Dybala will cost. However, when you paid £40 million for Aguero, you were getting a much more finished article than what you would be getting with Dybala.
But let's be honest, there's no way Arsene Wenger's paying £40 million for Dybala. There's no way.
And that's exactly my point, is that for £40 million, you were justified in buying Aguero, because Aguero was scoring you 20 goals that season.
Are not going to get anywhere near 40 million for him. If they get anywhere near 25, 30 million, they'll be doing well.
I think they will. I think they will in the long run, but only if he goes to another Italian club. I think I mentioned this on the last pod.
Yeah.
If it's dual ownership, then...
Juventus will fob him off.
Yeah.
But Juventus have got that young kid they got from Sassuolo last season, and he's not really doing much, is he? And he's meant to be one for the future.
They've also got Kingsley Coman, who's thought very highly of, and he plays a similar role. So,
any relation to Kingsley Black?
No, Forest legend. Okay. But Dom, you're right, and you're absolutely right to call me on that. The stats say otherwise, and maybe I should qualify what I mean by on track. I guess what I'm saying is, if he progresses at the rate he has done this season and continues, then I think if you look back in a couple of years, I think people will talk about him as the new Aguero. But like you say, it's such an easy thing to say because he's Argentinian, he's diminutive, he plays a similar style, etc. I just think that from what I've seen this season of him, which is a fair amount in fairness, I just think that if he gets a bit, much like I said with Lacazette, if he gets that big move, you could see a player explode. Equally, you could see him fade into nothingness, and I could be completely wrong. So, you know.
For me, I'd probably prefer Lacazette, but if I was going to pick someone for the striker position, I'd probably pick Schneiderlin.
And the goalkeeper, and the centre-back, and the centre midfielder.
Actually, here's a quick little thought for you before I hand the pod back, since I've hijacked it for the last hour. What about Hector Bellerin going further up the pitch, playing right wing and bringing Jenkinson?
Oh, yes.
Jenkinson and Debuchy as our right backs.
I'd go for that tomorrow.
I'd swap it back. I would have Jenkinson as your right midfielder, and I'd keep Bellerin where he is as an understudy to Debuchy.
I think Bellerin's got more skill in him than...
You can't waste him at right back, and he's got far too much to his game already.
I was just going to say, if you're looking at Hector Bellerin's most valuable assets as a footballer, it's the amount of skill the guy's got going forward, his pace and his directness, and I think that needs to be at the right wing. Whereas I look at Jenkinson and I think that sort of physically, and I am probably being a little bit guilty of looking too much at somebody's physique and athletic ability, but he's perfect right back. He's a bit bigger, he's a bit more solid, he's a bit taller, he's probably a bit better in the air, and he may be a little bit better at defending long term than what Bellerin may be, because Bellerin's assets are...
Going forwards.
Yeah, going forward. So that's just a thought.
My only issue...
sorry, more the point as well, Bellerin's stature is closer to Debussy's. So when you got players the stature and fairly similar physical attributes, you know, if you're interchanging them for injury or whatever, you're not losing out too much here.
The only thing I would say in Jenkinson's, or in the defence of the argument I would have at playing Jenkinson further forward, and granted, this probably wouldn't work at Arsenal because we don't really do it, one of Jenkinson's best, or the two best things about his game, his attributes, are that he's got an engine on him and he goes, you know, full pace at 90 minutes, game in, game out, which means he can get up and down. The other thing is his crossing is brilliant. I've not seen a fullback, if you like, cross a ball as well as... In fact, West Ham have got two of the best in the business at the moment.
Jenkinson, yeah.
In Jenkinson and... what's the lad at the left back, the Ipswich boy?
Cresswell, is it?
Cresswell, that's right. Those two put into some of the best crosses in the Premier League as we speak right now. And I just, if Arsenal actually, we don't really cross the ball in, do we? But if we did, you know, you imagine Jenkinson putting in crosses from a midfield area rather than having to charge down the right hand side and swing one in.
Well, I don't know. Fullbacks play that high up the pitch sometimes anyway, that he would have plenty of opportunities to cross the ball in from high up the pitch. But I think that he's a bit better physically as a right back. That's just a little side note that I thought, as far as that right hand position potentially being open, that, you know, by thinking that we've got Chambers, Jenkinson, Debussy and Bellerin, we've got to sell someone and loan someone, and, you know, not necessarily. There might be other options out there. So it was just something worth thinking of. But since I've finished hijacking the pod now, I can hand it back over to you, Chris, and we can wrap this show up.
No worries. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, we probably went longer than we thought, but it's a good debate, and in a slow week of, well, shit internationals. Let's be honest.
Oi. There was one great international.
Other than the mighty Dragons, then
damn right. Come on.
A pretty slow week, unless of course you happen to be, I don't know, Brazilian or Chilean or whatever. But still, I digress. Right, let's wrap this sucker up then with our usual themes. I want some predictions from you all. Obviously, we've done all the questions, so once again, thank you to anyone that sent questions. I didn't do all the Twitter questions tonight because we had too many, but thank you to everyone that sent
and
them in.
apologies to Facebook guys. Blame Dom. Dom hijacked it.
Yeah,
it's
blame
Dom's
Dom.
fault.
It's always the Aussies.
Sean, Luca, Chris, Rory, Todd, Dave, Rob. Sorry.
Usual suspects. Yeah, usual suspects.
Dom's fault.
Yeah, blame Dom. Send him abuse. But yeah, let's get some predictions from you all. Let's start with the button monkey. Danny, Arsenal versus Liverpool in one of our favourites. So the good old 12:45. It's probably not really much point in asking you because you'll be asleep anyway. But in the odd occasion
summertime.
you wake up, of course you get up at midday in the summer, don't you? Sorry.
I do.
To Arsenal Liverpool.
What channel is it on?
BT Twat.
Oh, I can watch it in bed.
So you can listen to Michael Owen prattle on about bollocks as well.
Old no knees.
12:45 Easter Saturday. What do you think?
They have no Gerrard. They have no Stampy fucking mental case. Sturridge is injured.
Yeah, that's a surprise.
Old Mr. Kresh with the 1,000 kids. I'm not sure if he's playing. So yeah, they're shit and they're fucked. So we're gonna beat them 3-0.
Brave. First scorer?
And Ozil. Yes, I keep saying it. Eventually he's going to score.
Eventually you'll get there. Jace, what do you reckon?
Is Sterling out?
I don't think so. He played for England, didn't he?
It's Sturridge out today.
Sturridge is out for a month, so yeah, he's dead.
Yes, see? Oh,
yeah.
He's played his one obligatory game this month.
Epic. 2-0 Giroud.
Lovely. Thank you, Jeff.
It's called doing a Jeff.
It is called doing a Jeff. Dom, what do you reckon?
I think it's going to be a lot harder than what we think, purely because Liverpool's season is on the line. They've got absolutely everything to play for, other than obviously the FA Cup coming up. But as far as their top four hopes go, if they lose this game, they are 9 points behind and they are stuffed. So I think they're going to press. I think they're going to. Doesn't matter who they put out on the pitch, they're going to be tough to get past. So I'm just going to say a 1-1 draw, and I think I'll say Santi will, just to annoy Jace, will score from open play.
Yeah, you stole my prediction.
That doesn't annoy me. That would please me.
You'd be loving it.
Yeah, I would.
I was going to say the same, but for argument's sake, to be different, I'll agree with Dom. I think it'll be tight. A lot of people seem to think that we're going to pace them, but I can't see it. I'll go with a close 2-1. Scorer wise, it's a difficult one. That I'll play safe and go Giroud as well. It is very actually no, I won't. I'll be controversial. I'll say Koscielny. There we go. Bit of a random one for you. So that's the predictions done. Shout outs. I've got one I want to do at the end, so I'm going to come to you guys first of all. Let's go the opposite way. Dom, have you got anybody you'd like to give a shout to?
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to, like we've mentioned earlier on the show, Accidental Gooner at Accidental. Fellow Aussie gets involved, asked lots of good questions, and asked a question about the 30-goal a season stuff tonight when I tweeted earlier if anyone had anything, but we pretty much covered most of the stuff anyway. But yeah, there's one for you. Go give him a follow.
She's good to interact with on Twitter as well. She's good fun.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Jace, what about yourself?
Yeah, my fellow Welshman whose birthday it was, it's now 4:00 in the morning on Wednesday mornings. His birthday on Tuesday, and it's Dan Thomas at Daniel T92 Wales. He's a top man, Dan is. Happy birthday, Boyle.
Yeah, seconded. He's on my Facebook. Danny, gentleman's nod from you. Nod. Gentleman's nudies from you.
As long as it's not a nudge.
Yeah.
Well, from the podcast account, I've just been going and following loads of supporters groups all over the world, and one of them that said thanks was Sooner-Gooners, Sooner. So that's at Sooner Gooners. And there's also another one. I was talking to the very own John Welsh and I think one other about beards, and there's this this company popped up called Scoundrels Wax, and that's at Scoundrels Wax, and they're going to have a look at their website, scoundrelswax.com, and go and see what wax they got for their beards. They've got all different ones, and I think they should, and oil. They should start selling beard combs. There you go, corner of the market. I'm in.
He's in, and I had a chat to the chap as well, and
I think he used to be a Forest fan, but now he follows lower league football up in the North Midlands.
He does,
Chris?
yeah. Yes.
Now that the Eurovision Song Contest will be on soon and you've got to give back your awards, what are you going to do next year?
Dana International. I'm thinking about just coming on stage and just Windy Millering for the crowd.
It's helicoptering.
Helicoptering, sorry, yeah. I think that's the way forward.
I'll join you, son.
Yeah, just one on each. Me and you, one on each side of the stage.
Don't need air conditioning.
No, we'll maybe wheel Danny out to do a little sort of spinneroony, and then we'll just go off, and that'll be it. So
you could hang your coat on me nubbin.
Oh God, you always have to go to that wrong level, don't you?
Well, I've not seen it since the 70s.
No. Little bit of promotion for me on a couple of things, and we're out of here. As usual, Bergie Bloggers, their latest work. You got Simon Collins' work is still available, which was the information or the blog about Theo. Jeff, excellent stick or twist too. Jeff obviously runs the Bergie Bloggers, and the guest blog this week was from Plastic Spam, Les, who's done a very in-depth piece on the future of Arsenal. Sorry, is there a future in Arsenal's past? It's titled. It's a long one, but it's a good one. So
just don't tell Amy Lawrence about it, for fuck's sake.
No, I did see that tweet.
She basically told him to piss off.
She did.
Stop bugging me.
Yes, she really did. So.
But he did have a good point. Why? He said, well, you're always going on about that no one mentions her or her book or something. Yeah, so he did. Told her, he said, don't tell me.
Told him to bugger off.
He's a legend, Les.
He is. He's put an awful lot of thought. I know it took Jeff a number of hours to
3 years
to fine-tune things. So fair play to Les. And as usual,
I used to have a rule: no hyperlinks, no pictures, no links, no nothing.
No bugger off. Yeah.
Jeff could have had that up in 30 seconds.
He could.
In fact, no editing, no spell checking.
But as per usual, he just did his job, apologised for it profusely, being Canadian, and got on with it. Yeah. So God bless him. So so that's those. Shout outs from me. I want to give one to one of our radio guys, which is Tom Canton. Tom is going to Arsenal Liverpool on Saturday, and he very kindly messaged us earlier on and said, would we like any pictures? And then we suddenly remembered that we have an Instagram account which our own Mr. Fife runs when he's not.
That's a loose word.
When he's not making the money.
Use of the word runs.
But yeah,
when he's not spending your pension money.
Yeah, absolutely. But Tom Canton, who's
on steak and ginger.
Who's at tcanton94. Tom is going to be in charge of our Instagram. He also did a lovely graphic about tonight's podcast for us.
Yes.
So he'll probably be popping up on that Instagram account more often than not. So
also based in Nottingham.
He is, yeah. He's at uni
occasionally.
Yeah, or Shottingham as they've nicknamed it. So a little bit of a shout to Tom and thank him for that. And my personal shout out is to my friend Gaz, who's at Gazman Jones, who I had the pleasure of watching WrestleMania with via WhatsApp last night. I was watching it, he was watching it. We were bantering back and forth as he necked gin after gin. It's quite an amusing night.
Is he an old lady? Was he knitting?
No, but I'm
having a gin. Don't you know?
He's getting married later this year, so he's on the gin already to get by. One final plug from me, because I forgot to do it last week. Danny, I blame you because you were supposed to remind me.
Oh yeah, you've got to do this thing. You reminded me today to tell you.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that.
I can't remember what it is.
At the end of the piratical season, which is only less than a fortnight away now, we are going to be looking to appeal to the wonderful people that follow this podcast and anyone that has some change down the back of the sofa. Hashtag begging. We did a thing last year where I gave away an Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain match-worn shirt, which went to the chap in Norway, didn't it? I forget the guy's name. Oh, that's terrible. Anyway.
I know it.
Go on.
Frederick Lundberg.
That's the badger. Yes, it was, wasn't it? Yeah. That's obviously not his real name, of course. But
no, it is actually his real name.
Oh, is it his real name?
I have no idea.
Oh, well, okay.
No, it's not Lundberg, it's Lund. Lund.
Well, anyway.
And he is Danish.
The man in Denmark. There we go. But he was the proud owner of the Oxlade-Chamberlain shirt. And what we did, basically, is I said to anyone who can afford to spare us £1 or more to help lower league clubs like ourselves, grassroots football clubs, survive, I appreciated any donations we got. We made a huge amount of money last year. Not enough for me to retire on, I'm afraid, but certainly enough to keep our club afloat, and it paid for our pitch fees pretty much in total last season. And along with the kind help of our fellow ABW guys, we were able to run the club, get through the season, and whilst it keeps Jason in comedy at the end of the day.
For comedic effect alone, it's worth it. Every week taking a piss out
Keeps
of
people
him.
in humour. But no, on a serious side, myself and all the lads that play for us really appreciated it. We set a bit of a precedent. There's not many clubs anywhere down here that I know of, or in fact anywhere in the country. We got tweets from various lower league clubs all the way up sort of London. Somebody in Glasgow tweeted me saying that's an excellent idea and thanking me. So it sounds like a bit of a beg, but there is prizes. This year I've got not one, not two, three match-worn shirts that I've got to give away. Well, I've got a Mertesacker, a Koscielny, and a Thomas Rosicky shirt that will be given away, as well as a copy of the Arsenal shirt book. So
aren't they match-worn?
They are match-worn, yes.
Well, that's important. You should tell people.
They are match-worn. They have all the seal of the fused-on Nike emblems. They're from the season where we had the funky badge, the 125-year season. So they're only a couple of years old, but they're all.
And if you get enough money, to bring you a bit of luck next season, you're going to hire Good Luck Jonathan now that he's unemployed.
Yeah. We'll pay for Jace to come down in a golden chariot so he can watch games and stand and give me abuse actually live. So
actually,
now that would be an idea, wouldn't it? Go on. Oh, I've given him ideas now. Yeah.
Get a bionic knee and he can play.
He really could. But anyway, basically, it's just a quick plug now in advance. What I'm going to do is at the end of the season, I'll make everyone aware when it's going to go live. We'll open our donation page. We are literally going to do the same thing as last year, minimum donation of £1. If you want to give more, if you can afford to give more, fantastic. If you can't...
But when they donate £1, PayPal take about 15p of that.
Not if we do it not if you do it the way we did last year, where we do it as a gift, where you pay somebody.
They still take it as a gift?
No, not if you do it the way that. Not if you do it if you're paying a friend. There are ways around these things. Yeah. But stay tuned. They are excellent prizes. I think those shirts alone, one of the four shirts, they're worth 350 quid minimum each. So it is a good prize. Obviously, if you donate, you go into a draw. The draw will be done on a podcast in the future date. I'm probably going to leave the draw open for between a month to 6 weeks. So when it goes live, you'll have a month to 6 weeks. I'll let you know how the totals are going. And as I say, everyone that contributes will go into the draw and we'll give away some lovely merch. So that's it from me as far as plugging stuff goes. Anybody else got anything they want to say before we close things up?
No.
I'm tired.
Bored.
4 hours I've been here.
4:05 in the morning in the UK.
This will be up Thursday.
Dom's laughing at us as we speak. He's going, "You silly bastard, stayed up all night just for this."
To be fair, he's done it for us.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent debate. Nod to Jason again, as in Mr. Schrader, who couldn't be with us tonight. He does send his apologies. I know he was personally gutted, but he will be back when his work has caught up, when he's caught up on work, I should say. And also a nod to Mr. Gimley, who's not with us, obviously, because I'm here.
He's passed away.
He's not dead, Danny.
Isn't he?
I hope not, because if he is, you're going to feel terrible now. So hopefully he's not dead.
Right. He's in training because he's going to be on the first manned mission to Mars. Yeah, we haven't told him yet.
Leave my fellow staff alone. Leave my fellow Welshman alone.
We're putting him back in his Nike Air Max size 9 box, as Danny put last week.
That's it.
But that remains for me. All that remains for me to do is to say thank you to Dom.
No problems at all, gents.
Thank you for your time, obviously, for the stats as well. Thank you to Jace.
Aye.
There we go. Beautiful. There we go. We got there in the end. And thank you to Danny, as always. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Budget Jesus.
Pleasure. You're all my sons.
Jesus.
Aldi Jesus, I think you'll find. So that was Bergkamp Wonderland. Thank you for joining us this evening. And as always, we'll be back with you in your ears next week, I should say. Cheerio for now, everybody.
Bye-bye, you cheeky monkeys.
Good night.
Oh, I forgot to press record.
Don't you
I
fucking...
will fucking kill you.
I
will
didn't.
fucking come up there. I will fucking take the wheels off that wheelchair. I
Yeah.
will fuck you up.
Beat you around the head with them.
Will you put me back when you're done?
No.
Oh, you bitch.
I'd leave you.
Just leave you on the floor.
I gotta be honest with you. I'd leave you in the bath.
Yeah, I don't have a bath.
I'd put a snorkel in your mouth, and
I
then
don't
I'd
have a
cover you
bath.
with water.
I have
Okay,
water.
the river.
How dare you?
The river. You'd be in the river with a snorkel,
chilly.
and you'd be tough tits.
It's chilly.
It's 4 o'clock in the 4 hours.